All right, it's 6:30. We're gonna get started. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please. So just read off our names. You'll just write it down. Say Brett. Say Brett. Say Brett Gifford.
Brett Gifford.
Scott DeLock.
Scott DeLock.
Here.
Shay Norman.
Here. Adam Evans.
Adam Evans. April Grant. Here.
Christie.
Here.
All right. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall, on the bulletin board over there. It's also available in pamphlet form at the website provided. I need approval of minutes of February 11th, 2025 and February 25th, 2025 regular meetings.
Motion to approve.
So then you say, you roll call again.
Okay. Roll call again. Dean.
Yes.
Grant. Oh. DeBach.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Gabby.
Gabby.
Yes.
Norman. I'm new, guys.
You're doing great.
You're doing great.
So unless there's a tie, I don't have to do
Oh,
it.
you don't have to do it. Okay.
So you cover that.
We didn't cover any of that.
You're all right. All right, street report.
Jim Schultz, street report, a lot of snow, fixed a couple water leaks. Do have an issue that you guys need to address with the county, because it's about to wash our water main out down here by the sale barn. It's already exposing the old one. The new one can't be very far away. The dump truck is ready, we just need paid so we can go get it.
Sorry. Park Cemetery.
Started working through the bridge. We had.
Kevin Hall,
You didn't see me.
Steve Crawford.
No.
Guys, quiet, please. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, like Tim said, just to reiterate, we did pass some snow this month. Counting up the days and everything, we did spend some time behind the wheel with the plow in front of us. Fixed some water mains. We had one over here, 2nd Street by Creighton's Auto Body, and then over here on 1st Street. That was just interesting, let's put it that way. Me and Anya did go down and did some pesticide training down in Scottsbluff. Lord willing, we'll be non-commercial applicators. We won't find out for another 3 weeks because it has to go to Lincoln and they grade it and everything, and hopefully we'll get mailed our commercial applicator cards. Community center, we got ceiling tiles that were rotted, water damaged, bad, replaced. We did save the old ones, so we need some community input on what we'd like to do with those. Yes, sir.
I do have a suggestion on that.
Sure.
My idea was, we've done quilts in the past for fundraisers and whatnot, get pictures of them laid out and the ones on the ceiling. See about doing quilts and selling them like commemorative quilts. And then you can put something like that up down at the museum, so it's always there, because tiles rot and they get water damage and all that kind of stuff. So that's an idea I've had.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And we're open to any suggestions that the community wants to come up with. We need to take pictures of it, put it on a video file or whatever, and Ashley could help us out with that. Maybe we could publish it on the website or something like that. But yeah, any suggestions, ideas, I mean, that's a great idea. Because I'm not sure what to do with them besides throw them away, and then 10 years later somebody will come back in and be like, well, what are these? Let's trash them, you know, so.
Oh, quickly, the second part to that was then once the quilts are done, we could auction off to whoever would want, we could auction off those old tiles, there's probably families and.
Yeah,
whatnot
fund
that
the
would want
family
something like that.
and get back to the family.
And that money could go towards our projects like the pool and the rodeo grounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Or another suggestion is you could take those old tiles and have some duplicated and put them back up there.
That's an idea also.
I like that.
That idea was discussed at the park board meeting about possibly having the art class remanufacture those tiles.
Yeah, if we need to do them one at a time, or how would we work it out? I mean,
You
you
could
know.
still do a quilt fundraiser if you wanted to, but.
Yeah, so, any ideas, suggestions, maybe get a hold of the city hall or email them or something like that, and that way you can start stacking things away and talk about it in the park board and among the community and everything. Talk with the golf course, and I guess the, baseball board is gonna work fertilizer for our ball fields over there. The idea is to get it, the grass nice and healthy and everything, choke out all the go-aheads and sandbirds and everything. Of course, we're gonna be applying pesticides over there and all. Irrigation is good to go over there, and I am excited, contrary to what people say or tell me, spring is here. And we're gonna be hitting it hard, as soon as little guys start growing. In April, me and Augur, is gonna go to a Sawyer training class in Gearing. That way we're a little bit more knowledgeable about running our chainsaw, taking trees out and everything, because we have been doing a lot of tree removal, here down in the park and up at the cemetery. We've been removing and installing a lot of ballards here lately. They're the basically fence posts with the cable that runs through them up the ball fields and down in the park. We have quite a few, I call them new, but new to us. They have been weathered and everything, but they look a lot better than rotted posts that we have already and everything. And these will not need to be painted because they are creosote, so there's a little low maintenance on them. I think they just look better than the ones that are leaning, tilting port and, you know, port side and everything like that. So, we've done some beehive removal in the park. We had a building that had pretty serious, it was a wasp nest, it wasn't a beehive. That was kind of taxing, but we took care of it. We have an issue over at the cop shop and runs New Waves. We're trying to figure out the sewer system over there and trying to exhaust all resources before having to dig it up and everything. We've been putting a lot of time over there, and we've come up with ideas besides digging it. It sounds like that's what it might turn into. And I helped out the water department a little bit, doing meter reads too. And then that's about all I got, guys.
Library?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody, council members. Just a heads up, we have a capacity in the library when it's being used as a venue of 40. We're currently at 41, so I don't think the fire marshal gods are gonna smite us or anything, but we are essentially at capacity, just so everyone's aware. But regarding my library department reports, February was a really interesting and good month for us for being considering how short it was. We had 468 visitors and guests to our events. We had 57 computer users. We circulated 173 physical materials from the library, which is a little low, but I attribute that to the cold weather that we did manage to have this season happened mostly on the tail end of February. So elsewhere we had 196 digital materials circulate, so that number held strong, so people were still reading from home even if they weren't checking out the books from here. And then our collection development continues to evolve as we added 20 new titles and removed 49 old, battered, and some of them were stinky titles, like literally stinky. On to library events. Since the last council meeting, there have been 10 events with a total attendance of 181 across all those different community events, and library events. Upcoming events include, starting with tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, there is a webinar called Spring Cleaning, and the subject is Revitalizing Eyesore Properties in One's Community. And I believe it's meant to discuss commercial and residential properties. There was members of the Chamber of Commerce who brought this webinar to my attention, asking if they could watch it here. And I thought it sounded so useful to our community that I asked if they minded whether or not I just put out chairs for everybody who wants to come. So everybody is certainly invited to that. We might even be able, depending on how the people who are putting on the event, we might even be able to exchange questions back and forth, whether it's through a chat or a web camera. So, let's see. Also, tomorrow evening, the Crawford Serving Humanities organization will be having their regular meeting at 5:30. The Chamber of Commerce will meet here on Thursday evening at 5:45. And on St. Patrick's Day, here at the library at 5 p.m., there will be a showing of the documentary called Roots of Irish Identity. So a little bit of, it's a pretty short documentary, but just a smidgen of Irish history and culture before you begin your evening shenanigans. On the 21st of March, we'll have a Canopy demonstration. For those of you who haven't heard of it yet, Canopy is a streaming service that the library now features as a service you get for free with your library card. So it's kind of like Hulu, but it's ticket-based. So a movie might cost 2 tickets, a series might cost 5 to open up a series for a week. So every patron will get about 15 tickets per person, and I'll have a demonstration that shows how to sign up for it, how to navigate it, and make the most of it on the 21st at 5 o'clock. The next council meeting will be March 25th here at 6 p.m. I believe. And then on the 26th, the Personnel and Manual Review Committee meet. On April 3rd, over in Chabron at the Dawes County Fairgrounds, is the Treasure Chest of the Northwest. And I mention this event just because it'll take me away from the library, as the library will be having a booth in their tourism industry fair that they'll have. And I just recently learned that I was also nominated for Frontline Employee of the Year. So I'm very grateful and humbled by that. So at 5:30 is when that will take place. The library will remain open for that time. I'll have volunteers cover me for that. Friday, April 4th, I put the wrong time there. It's at 10 a.m. The reading group will meet for its regular monthly meetup, and they'll be here in the morning. And then on April 8th at 10 a.m., the Board of Trustees meeting will be taking place at the Senior Center. So a slight change of venue there. Otherwise, the rest of my report should be pretty short and sweet. I have a few updates. I believe last time I mentioned, but just in case, our computer lab is now fully outfitted with industry standard word processing, presentation, and data processing programs, Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. So that's a big win, because that's been a sore spot for me, for the library for a long time. It's sorted now, and it's up for everyone's use. I also happened to get those programs put on our circulation desk computer with a totally separate key, so that was not an extra cost or anything. It was an existing key that I was able to apply to our other machines. So all of our machines in the library are up to snuff. Elsewhere, we have finished the installation of interior security cameras for just general safety of the library patrons and users and myself and volunteers. And lastly, our meeting room, thanks to wonderful volunteers, is now available. It's beautiful and it's outfitted for use. It's reservable. You just talk to me and I'll get you penciled in if you've got a particular event, such as an interview or a meeting that you'd like to hold, or a study group or a project group, whatever the case may be. There's a 6x4 foot whiteboard in there for all your planning needs, and eventually it will be outfitted with a smart TV that has teleconferencing capabilities as well. So those finishing touches will be added as that equipment comes in. And lastly, spring and summer programs are in development. I'm just wrapping up my plotting for April and May events, and then June and July will be our summer reading program. So I'm hoping to have the summer reading program nailed down and arranged by the end of April. So unless there are any questions for me, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you for your help, Tony.
Water and sewer. Mr. Kirk.
Yes. So, we installed 3 high service pumps modified by JCI at the water plant, and we installed 2 of the high service pumps there as well. They were wired up by Country Electric. Third pump we sent back because it did not spin freely. It was damaged in shipping. As it was touched on earlier, we did fix 3 water leaks, second and Lynn and first, and Pine and second. Oh, sorry. Lynn, first and Lynn, second and Pine, and then 1 service leak on 306 Paddock. We had 3 emergency shutoffs due to freeze-ups. We had the engineers come out and talk to us about the corrosion in the water plant and the life asset there. We'll cover that later in the bullet point in the meeting. The effluent butterfly valves on filter 1 and 2 we adjusted, and then we also adjusted the influent and effluent air valves to recalibrate them. We were having some issues on the flow through that filter. We did get the heaters installed in the gallery and south wells. We did get the compressors ordered. The electrical requirements we did verify with Country Electric. And they're awaiting for our first payment. They want initial payment of half before they actually send them out. So hopefully we can get that paid quickly and get them coming. Over the weekend we did have a failure on the compressor in the sewer plant. So we performed some emergency repairs yesterday and this morning to keep it up and running for the time being. We did utilize the park employees, as I said, on meter reads in February, and we'd also like to perform a little more training with them guys to make sure they can do a little more for us between meter reads and small jobs around town if we can get that help. We're continuing to review the emergency response plan that the state is requiring us to do, which we do annually anyways, but we need to keep step through it and updating it. It hasn't been updated well in the past, you know, it's not very current. The service plan for the portable generator is only for servicing it. It's not a full maintenance plan. So maintenance is our responsibility, not docket on us. We did have Country Electric come look at that wiring and everything to the building and everything, and we are good to go there. So really all we need to do is get approval on how we want to go with the starter on that and get it put in. He did state that for us to have a block heater and an automatic starter transfer switch in there, he would have to cannibalize other breakers if we wanted that capability, but otherwise we can go out there and start it manually if we had to in an issue. We've met with JEO and the contractors to start the infiltration gallery project. They're tentatively thinking of starting March 17th, so that should be coming here quickly, and their expected completion date is the end of March, give or take a week. They have made the suggestion that installing the valves between the infiltration gallery, the building itself, and the collection box to actually put the gate valve in the clear well, which would make that work a lot easier for them, and it makes more sense for us. And the JCI guys were out this morning and surveyed out or staked out the project area so that they can start to work. The hot service plan for one of the 4 turbidity meters that we have expires in April. We currently have a service plan with them on our other 3 as well, and they'll run out until the end of August, or until August. We can renew that plan or purchase a testing and calibration kit if we want to do that in-house. As we stated before, it's a lot easier for us to do it, to use their service plan as opposed to doing it in-house, because if we do break anything, it's on us as opposed to being on them. We are sending the lead and copper and black backflow surveys out this month with water fills, and we'll answer any questions that anybody has on those, you know, normal working hours and that kind of stuff. And then we did get a new dumpster delivered up at the water plant that has a metal lid, so we really like to thank Swan on that, because that helps keep trash in the dumpster as opposed to going out in our pond. So that's a big thank you to them. And that's all I've got.
Alright. So number 6, update by Edward Blacksheep regarding the anode and installing corrosive resistant wiring inside the water plant.
Okay, so as Dennis said, we had a gentleman named Michael from the engineering company that actually built the water plant come out and look at the whole plant. Councilman Gedder was out there with us as well. We talked about the anode and how we had troubleshot the anode. We've taken everything apart, cleaned all the connections, run the wire out. We've dug up the anodes, we've reconnected them, we reburied them, we dug them up again. We're not seeing any change in our sacrificial anode. One of the options he said that he would draw up for us is the possibility of cleaning the tank number 1 all the way down, taking all the media out of it, pulling all the connections out of the inside of it, having it filled and welded where all the pitting and corrosion is, and then applying epoxy paint coating over it, which is what a lot of the new water systems are doing. It's just a super caustic environment. You're always going to have electrolysis where you have water. This might be an option, a cheaper option than trying to cut our whole plant apart and fit it through the door and then bring another one in and weld it all up. The one thing we do have going for us is that we have 2 filters that sit next to each other side by side. The system is completely redundant. We can run on one. We have been running on one for a lot of years. Optimally, we would love to have 2, but this is an option for us moving forward. He said it was probably going to be a couple of weeks before he could have something drawn up. We were shooting for the next council meeting, but I'm going to think that it's probably going to be closer to the first council meeting in April before we get any word back on that. I did send him a lot of the pictures we had from the repairs when filter number 2 corroded out and we lost a lot of that media. We did have a lot of archived photos and stuff that we could send him on just the hardcore level of corrosion we do have in the bottom of that tank with the aluminum, to try and come up with a couple of different solutions as we move forward. So they do have a lot of the plans from the as-built and everything down there, and we will also try to reach out to them to see what other information they have that we could use to kind of bolster up our own records as well.
Did he find it odd that donated corrosive anode
Yeah,
is not functioning?
That was, he called me Friday evening and we talked about the sacrificial anode for a good while. And that's when I let him know that we had done everything that we had done. Because when I first started working up there, I noticed that all the screws were actually corroded. The wire, the copper wire was corroded, so we took out each screw, cleaned all the corrosion down off of them, sanded down all the copper wire to get the exposure down. We also had the wire ohmed, and we know that it's reading current. There's current going through it. We found that the switch that's supposed to isolate so that we can dig up the anodes was actually still grounding itself out to the structure itself. So we actually remove that from the structure and have it so we can isolate out the anodes if we need to, but when it is closed, we are still getting a current through there. We're not sure if maybe our anodes are no good. We did have an idea that it was provided to us by NDEE, but it's not the power company. The engineers told us they believe it's the gas company that provided those. So we are still trying to catch a minute where we can sit down and start making some more phone calls and try and grab another sacrificial anode to see if we can kind of pause everything where it is now while we look into the future of how we're gonna step through this.
They also have another gentleman that works for them off and on. He actually just retired, but he was one of the initial guys that helped design it, put the equipment in, and then he ended up being an inspector at the plant, so he knows the facility very well. He just was sick or on vacation.
I think he was sick or vacation.
So he didn't make the
out
trip this time, but gonna use him, communicate with him, because he knows the facility very well.
Absolutely.
They also think there's another issue possibly occurring or something, wiring being too close to the pipes that's causing our excess corrosion in the main
Yeah, it
water.
was, all of our electrical components are pretty much mounted on steel rails that are screwed right to the aluminum on the, of the filter. We had talked about possibly getting some rubber bushings and trying to isolate, those components from the filter to try and keep more of the electricity where it needs to be, as opposed to just kind of slapstick together and screwed to the most sturdy thing in its path. That was something we had talked about, and I was just waiting for his full assessment to come down before
And
we really
ultimately-
start getting any crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately, something you guys may wanna look at is, he's gonna create an entire plan for 1, 2, 3 years, whatever he thinks it's gonna take to get, we have a lot of issues, like, a lot more than even just those. They're gonna go back and look at the original plans, try and get us updated current, but also fix the problems that we have been experiencing. But they would be willing to do either like a 6 month, every 6 months come in and reevaluate where we're at on that plan that they do create. They'll help these guys with all the operating manuals and everything the way it should be, takes the load off their back trying to figure out as things go along, help them out. But it may be something that you take their expertise and let them help us, because, I mean, something happened with some mayor or something 20 years ago, like everything else in this town, and so at that point, that's when they kind of parted ways. So at this point, they're willing to come back and help us and keep those things moving along. This was, they're not charging us for this visit or what they're writing up at this point. They're not charging. They say they do this for communities just to try and help out, and with the understanding if a bigger project comes up that you utilize their expertise at that point.
Absolutely. He also said that they would work with us to point us in the right direction for any grants or any state funding that we could possibly get to help rehab our system.
There's a lot of money
As Councilman Dean has talked about, now that we are absolutely performing the maintenance that needs to be performed on this plant, we should have a little bit easier of a time getting our hands on some of this assistance. But we just have to keep our nose to the grindstone, and we just really need to keep hammering it out, and we're getting there. We're getting close.
All right.
One quick thing to add on, just because it's come up numerous times in the last 6 months and just no advancement on it, but he did recommend to also a laborer. He says it's entirely too much work for these guys to try and maintain or continue to do the proper maintenance and do answer public calls and whatnot. So I know we keep shooting it down, but even the engineer's like, yeah, this is just entirely too much work for what we have set up to operate.
Number 7, discuss, approve, disapprove resolution 2025-02 to apply for public transportation grant funds for 2026-2027.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Oh, sorry, we need, one of them.
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
everybody.
Mr. Mayor, 8, 9, and 10 are all the same item.
Okay.
So we see somebody to introduce the ordinance and read it by the title.
So, 8, 9, and 10. Introduce and read by title new ordinance 699, changing meeting location and time for city council meetings. 9 is waiving the 3 readings for that ordinance, and 10 is passing the ordinance. So ordinance number 699, an ordinance of the city of Crawford, Nebraska, amending section 1-309 of ordinance number 684 of the city of Crawford, repealing the ordinance in conflict and providing for an effective date.
You just need somebody to make a motion to introduce and suspend the rules of 3 readings.
I'll make a motion to introduce and suspend the rule of 3 readings, please.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Grant,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes. I need a motion to pass and publish the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to pass and publish, please.
Second.
Grant,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Alright. New business.
I'd like to change the order.
Yeah. I'm changing.
Okay.
So, I would like to discuss the engineer's second walkthrough on rodeo grounds grandstands. And that's number 27.
So, for the last 6 months, been trying to get headway on this rodeo grounds. After we had our workshop, several of the members of the communities expressed a request to have a second walkthrough or a second engineer's opinion. So I went ahead without direction of council, because I didn't know that if they'd ever get done. So I went ahead and contacted an engineering company out of Rapid City. And they came down free of charge. They met with Brooke Bass, Dale Rising, myself, Scott DeBock. We did a walkthrough. They took pictures. They had a structural engineer with them. And by the end of it, basically what they said is we got our lifespan out of the concrete itself. It's shot. They said possibly, and he was almost laughing when he said it, possibly you could get 1 more year out of this thing. He goes, but I will not put my green tag on it. So we've had 2 engineers at this point say it's structurally unsound. There is, even in the last 6 months since the last time I was on it'd be the south side, second section over, there is additional like 2-inch cap beams, so it's even separating more just in the last 6 months from when I went and took pictures and I looked myself. So it's an issue that has to be dealt with. Probably, I don't know, I gave Jody to put on the clerk's record or put in the city record, Watkins Construction? Watson Construction, sorry. I always get them confused because we had Watkins and Omaha. Watson Construction came out and did a free bid just to tear the grandstand off the hill. Again, about 650,000 pounds of concrete, but they would charge roughly $36,000 to just drop it off the hill, sit right there. So that gives you guys a starting point of what you need to be looking at. So you probably want to get this out for bids. If you're still trying to get that removed off the hill before the rodeo, you have time. The engineers said it's totally doable to get it dropped off the hill. Even when I talked to JEO, my proposal or my suggestion, I guess, would be to get it dropped off the hill, get it put over into that section right on the north side of the racetrack. Swan, I talked to them. They are going to get a grant. That's their deal, is they're going to get a grant for the crushing of concrete for at least 3 communities. They were more than willing, happy to include us in that. And by all rights, it's a very small amount of concrete when you look at what the other communities are looking to put into the coffers on this. But by the end of it, you probably won't even have to pay a dime to have it crushed. They'll check it for the grade and see if you guys can use it on roads or repurpose it for something else. They'll take the metal out of it. Costs about, I think, $10,000 from that paperwork to bring that crusher over, but just a very minimal cost for us to get rid of that concrete at that point. But it's going to be getting it from A to B. We have 1 dump truck. I don't know if we know a couple guys have, the means to move some material like that at a fast pace, but it's going to take quite a few dump truck loads to get it over there. But you guys can save a lot of money. You don't need an engineer on it. Drop the grandstand. They suggested just repacking it with dirt and getting the rollout hay seed material, drop it down the hill and let it set. And you guys have plenty of time to have a hill that at least people can sit on, get you by for a year or 2 till you come up with a game plan. If you put that in your action plan, you can get it all set up and have something put back in there, tiered hills, whatever it may be. If you're going to do it more than 1 or 2 years just getting by with grass in the hill, they did recommend putting in some sort of drainage system, because it won't last more than a year or 2 if you just grass it up. So, but it's done. We got 80 or 70 plus years out of it. So I mean, it's at its time.
Yes, sir.
Did any of the engineers, or engineering firms, was it ever brought up to pump any foam under that?
Yeah, so
Oh,
foam
was-
or concrete pumped under the void is basically to keep it from collapsing inward. It will not offer any structural support from keeping it sliding off. Talked about cutting holes in it, putting pilings down in there, that won't do anything. You still have to fill the void, the amount of material that you'd have to put in under the entire grandstand to fill all the voids and possibly not get to them all, which would just continue to make the water freeze, separate, push. Just the cost amount, it's not nowhere even close to being viable to do that.
Yeah. How much rebar is in it?
They actually think there's more, what do you say, mesh or wire?
Wire, concrete.
Oh, yeah.
So he actually thinks it'd be extremely easy to drop it off the hill, because of the age of the concrete with the void under it. He thinks it'll be much faster and easier than most people would think.
Mhm. Well, if there wasn't rebar in it, or heavy rebar in it, we could use a riprap out to the lake too.
Yeah.
Without crushing, break it up in big chunks.
Yeah, that'd be something that, like I said, I mean, I'm just going off what the structural part of it is, as far as getting it off the hill and that. I mean, I haven't dug in any farther than just having that first proposal, just to give us a rough idea what it might cost to pull it off the hill.
All right.
No, biggest part of the failure is right now is ongoing storms, rain. The drainage is going underneath of the grandstands and just making the voids bigger every storm we get. So, I mean, there's no way to really stop the process. I mean, damage is already there and it's only gonna get worse. So, I mean, we've just gotta move forward and get it off the hill as quick as possible.
All right, next item, we're gonna skip to number 30. Accept resignation letter from council member Brett Gedney. I need a motion.
Can I say something real fast before I go through? I just want to clear the air as far as, there's an issue online as far as me being a councilman and possibly my business, but this has nothing to do with that in any way, shape, or form. I don't want the rumor mill to start, so I want that off the table. And then it's, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. I'm parting ways because I feel like I'm more of a hindrance at this point with certain council members. Lack of communication, lack of public, issues coming to the public forefront. I just feel it's just not the honest way I want to work, and so I'm stepping out of the way. I have there's nothing to do with the online stuff. I've already heard people asking me about, like, it has nothing to do with that. I had made this decision actually a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of people asked me to stay on and make sure a couple things got cleared up as far as like the rodeo and those types of things. Like, just wanted to clear the air on that, so there's no hard feelings towards anybody or anything, and just parting ways.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make
Second.
Bach,
yes.
Grant, Dean,
Yes.
Norman.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Brent. All right. Number 11, Brian could not be here, so we're gonna take no action.
Real quick, I did a little research looking into this. There are some towns out there, it's basically a vacant property registration act. And the statute requires people that have vacant buildings for a certain amount of time to register those buildings for the city. If they don't do so, there's some fees that could be attached. With the blessing of the council, I guess I can come up with some Grant, I know, has done this already. I can get you copies of their ordinances. Look at it, have it ready for when Brian comes. If you're okay with that.
That'd be appreciated.
No.
Number 12. Discuss, approve, disapprove request by Crawford Serving Humanities, Representative Roger Campbell, use of the ball fields and adjacent area as well as the community building for September 8th through the 13th, 2026 to host the Vietnam Tribute and Costa Freedom Wall.
Thank you. On March 5th, we took the final proposal to the park board and told them what our plan was, and they supported it. And okay, they're okay. And they suggested that we bring it to city council for their final okay. So that's the reason I'm here. The event is the Vietnam Wall and tribute to veterans and all those people that have given the ultimate sacrifice defending this country. It's veteran-owned by a company out of Bullitt, Texas, and we're in contract with them. And the dates, as you mentioned, Shane, are September 9 through the 13th of 2026, with the arrival date of September 8th, which will be an important date. Highway 20, back in December, was designated as a national highway in honor of Medal of Honor winners. Highway 20 is the longest highway in the United States. It stretches from Oregon all the way to Massachusetts, 3,000 miles, and it runs through 12 states. Those 12 states have 62% of all the Medal of Honor winners, which is really an interesting thing. But to celebrate that, they're going to have Harley Davidson is creating a motorcycle that's going to start in Boston, Massachusetts. Indian Motorcycles is going to have a bicycle that they start in Oregon. And they're going to meet halfway in the country. You know where that is? It's right here, and actually it's Shadron, but we're trying to do everything we can to convince them that it ought to be Crawford. Because the other interesting thing is the exact date is September 8th, 2026. So if that can happen, even if it takes place in Shadron, we'll still be able to have the escort, the company that we're contracted with, they'll meet the escort 20 miles outside of town, and we'll come in. It's estimated that there could be 600 to 1,000 motorcyclists there that day just to celebrate that event. So that's, some of those things are just coming together, and it's really exciting. The committee has done an excellent job, and that's why I think it's all coming together at the right time. The location is going to be the Crawford Ballpark Complex. We'd like to see if we could also use the community building, the parking area, and the field west of the fire hall headed over toward the golf course for parking. Because if we're expecting to have about 6,000, maybe 7,000 people here total in that 4-day period. So that would, you know, if you put that all together, there's 1,200 or 1,300 potential cars. We have one bus tour company that wants to put a couple of bus tours together. So we're going to need a parking area. We have committees, the following committees. We have the Ride and Escort Committee. We have Volunteer Coordination, Media and Publicity and Marketing, Education and Tours, Logistics, Ground Control, General Leadership and Coordination, Daily Events Planning. We have a Treasurer and Finance. We have a Security and Traffic and Parking Committee and a Lodging Committee. So, yes, sir.
Question for you. How many buses do you think that loads? Do you have any estimate?
Well, Goody Tours out of Omaha, when I spoke with him, he thought he could put two tours together. They'd be like 3 or 4 day tours. They'd come out here to the Panhandle and do our event, go to the fort, you know, go wherever. But he thought he could do 2 buses. So I'm guessing that maybe 30 to 40 people per bus.
The reason I ask is because I have property right across from the fire hall. We've got a board building and a little house. why I asked as far as how many buses. I will double check with my wife, but per the talk that we had earlier, I would donate that for those buses.
Unbelievable, thank you. Well, I'd support you, I'd support your wife. We will have a one-time event insurance policy for liability that we will take out. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. We're doing this to make sure that we honor those people. We're doing it for an educational event, and we want to bring significant impact financially to this community. If we can get 7,000 people to come here and drop a couple bucks each, it will be very nice. So I have a copy of this for your minutes, and you'll be seeing flyers that will look something like this that we're in the process of posting. So I'm here to give you awareness about it and to see if you're still okay that we can.
So if it's decided you can use that for parking, are you gonna need transportation back and forth for people?
Yeah, if we have parking out there, we've talked about getting some side-by-sides or something like that maybe could be a donation in kind, so that we could bring elderly people or disabled people over.
Well, we could possibly look at the public transportation buses. Because those are handicapped. Like
Yeah,
wheelchair
Right,
accessible.
but it'll
But
be.
it's
they'll
Thursday,
have to-
Friday, and so that, I mean, she has meal deliveries.
Check with Polaris, see if they would be donating.
We were actually gonna do exactly that, reach out to Polaris, and then also it's worth reaching out to probably Massac and Garing too, because they've got a bunch of golf carts. And they would be easy to get in and out of if they needed to for anybody that's handicapped, so.
Yeah, we could possibly reach out to them too.
Sure. Their trolley.
Trolley.
So I also talked with Jim Staldorf, and he was gonna try to remember the company that did the lighting for the field. They're out of western Iowa, and they also did the lighting at the football field. But we could check with them and see if they already have a LED upgrade, get rid of all these ballast run lights. So as soon as he can remember the name of the company, then I'll start looking into it.
That might be past September.
Yeah.
Just teasing. Alright.
I'll make a motion to approve Crawford serving manager to the ball field complex and the community building parking lot.
What about the other spot?
Well, we can't, I don't think it's a good idea for them to be parking at the fire hall, but we
No,
could.
not the fire hall, west of the
The
fire.
balloon building, right.
Yeah,
West
not
of the
fire hall,
balloon
so just
building.
west of
Sure.
that.
Yeah, all three locations.
I would just talk to Brian and see how much room you can take up at that fire hall. I mean, if you
Just have it
look when
roped
there's a
off so
huge
they can get
fire,
in and out.
there's always a lot of people parked there, but they can always get stuff in and out of there. So it's, I would talk to, I mean, you've got plenty of time to see how much room you can take up there. It's not gonna happen tomorrow.
And Brian would be flexible too. For an event like this, I think Brian would make it flexible.
Sure.
You're just gonna need to make sure if you need a helicopter, you can wait there.
Alright.
I would second the motion.
Motion, Dean,
Yes.
Kabak,
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Alright.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Roger.
Thank you,
Everything
appreciate it.
Alright, 13, discuss disapprove request by Parks Department to purchase a new Super Z 72-inch zero-turn mower for $13,860.17.
I don't know why I have to follow Roger. So, yes, we are petitioning for a new mower. Currently, we have three Hustler 60-inch mowers and a Kubota 52-inch mower. And we purchased a new 104 mower last year. We're able to put 12 hours on it. And we are requesting this new mower because the three that we have are over 6 years old, one is 7 years old. And it's kind of one of those things, it's not a matter of if it's gonna fail, it's when it's gonna fail. We have two mowers that are questionable right now. One before I came aboard was overfilled with oil. We call it the fogger. It's like a mosquito fogger because it'll fog for about 2 minutes when you start it up. And I can't believe this mower lasted last summer. We have another mower that we've just recently fired up and everything. Sounds like the bearing might be going out in the motor. We do everything we can to take care of these, our equipment and everything. But we've been Frankensteining these three pieces of equipment all summer because it seems like one's down. And while that one's down, we'll Frankenstein from that one to another one, keep it going, get this one fixed, and another one will go down. The warranties on the new mowers, including the one that we got last year, late in the fall, will apply to that one and the new one if we're approved for it. It's a 2-year warranty with no hour limit. So we could run them 24/7 for 2 years and they won't question the hours. If anything fails on them, they'll take them back and they'll fix them, under warranty. The second part of it is there's a 5-year warranty with a 1,200 hour limit. So we will be using these machines, so we're definitely going to max out the hours on them and everything. But if we were to, say, rust the big one, the 1 or 2 inch or 1 or 4 inch, excuse me, up to 5 years, if we don't have over 1,200 hours on it, then we can have some warranty work done if it does fail. The other mowers that we have currently can be unsafe, and if our previous operator, Ian, gets approved tonight to come back on, it'll be a blessing because he's familiar with these pieces of equipment and everything. Hydrostats on some of them, if you lift your hands off it and you do a 360 on it, get thrown off. With experienced operators, I'm not too worried about that because they know the machinery and everything, but maybe with some of our part-time help, they'll be coming on board. It could be a safety issue for us. The only people that are going to be allowed to operate these is going to be full-time employees, and that's 2 of us, listed right now, I looked online, it's about $21,000 machine. Last year it was listed at $19,063. Talked to Drew and I out at the Powerhouse. We got it down last year to $13,860, which is what's on there now. He's going to honor that price for us, and if it is approved, he said that he thought that we might actually get this mower, so he went ahead and ordered one, so we're not going to have to wait 6 weeks for it to come in and everything. Other than that, it's a 5-year plan to get a new mower every single year. So last year's budget, we went and got the 104, a big mower, which we haven't run it that much, so I'm not sure the time saving that's going to help us out on the big open fields, ball fields, cemetery, the South 40 up there and everything. It's going to cut some time. Getting this new mower, we're not going to have to worry about breakdowns. We'll have conscientious operators on them, and take care of them, obviously. We're just trying to be prepared for the 5-year thing. So if we can rotate these out and then surplus the ones that we have, I asked about trade-ins with the guys and said, honestly, we're just going to lowball you. It'd be better if you surplus them and sold them, or surplus them and give them to another department, say water department or golf course, or we'll get more money if we sell them privately. I have a question for that.
Did you by chance, I gave Kevin the phone number of Dave Swanson out of Himmingsburg. When I worked for the city, he used to come up, get the mowers, take them down to his place, get an estimate, get with us as far as with the estimate and the price on him, and taking them up north to Rapid Cities. Ungodly amount of difference. He'll do it for, even a third of what they did it. Or they'll do it for, just so you know.
So yeah, when that time comes up and we need to either repair or, you know, Dave's one would be a good guy to get hold of, I guess. I did ask about, not refurbishing, but going through the mowers and everything. It's just $300 to look at just the hydrostats on these machines. Let alone, you know, going through the engines and mowers and everything. So you're looking at about $300 per machine, and then whatever they find, plus time, plus labor, plus parts and everything. So that's my presentation. Any more questions, comments?
I got a question. Do they have single season lease options on any of these mowers?
I did not ask that question, so I do not know. That's the answer.
Probably not on the big one, but on the 60s, I'd be curious to find out whether they do have any, 'cause that might be the way to go. If we're gonna buy back, how many 60s are you gonna need?
I thought in the, budget meetings, it was discussed not to go with the 60s anymore, and go stay with 72s. across
Just the
the board.
72s? Is that
Yeah,
what
just
we-
because the number of men required or women required to operate those mowers, we could reduce our manpower with a little bigger machine. So we could save money on labor having bigger machines. And
What do you
they're
think
willing
about-
to drop their price on these mowers. The price of the 60-inch would almost cost what they're dropping the price of the 72.
And the fact that they're honoring something that we got last summer is kind of phenomenal, so.
Yes, sir.
When I was on the council, to answer Mr. Dean's question, at that time, we were told there was really no year lease. It would go a minimum of 3 year with so many hours. That was, I don't know, 2018, 2019, something like that.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I guess the other thing that Kevin didn't mention is that he's looking at quite a bit of mowing this summer. Looking at the rodeo grounds, and we've talked with the rodeo committee, the Wachipi board. There's a lot of work to do, and we don't feel like the equipment that he has now is going to help us do that. And so we need to have priorities from you guys to say what's not going to get mowed and when, because these guys do an excellent job. They work very hard, and I'd hate to see that people look at those, what they do, and they say, if it's not good, you hear it. If it's, you know, if it's not done timely, you hear it. These guys can do it if we hire a few folks and have them with the equipment. So.
Well, again, to back that up, I mean, I want to take care of everything. I'd love to start mowing private residences and all, but you know, everything takes time. And anywhere we can shave some time, you know, I'm all about that.
How many hours do you figure you guys mow to solve the 2 versus 5 year?
Well, I just haven't had it written down.
I think Roger would have had that.
All day, every day.
So this, what we have now, excluding the rodeo grounds, Wachipi and all that, is 226 hours per week. That's man hours sitting on the mower. That's not doing the maintenance, sharpening blades, changing oil.
Over how many weeks? Yeah, but
You know, I'm,
we
it's
need to
spring
know
now, so I
yearly
wouldn't
what's
be mowing
actually-
tomorrow, but, you know.
But we need to know actually like yearly
I think that
totals.
varies depending on the moisture that we
Right,
get.
right, and
I
that
mean,
is completely a
2
factor,
years
so it's hard
ago,
to
those
compare.
guys mowed nonstop, 7
And they
days a
still
week,
couldn't
and
catch it,
still
yeah.
couldn't catch it. So, I mean,
That's true.
for me, and I know I've talked with the rest of the council on this, we're at a point now, I think we don't have a choice. I mean, we have to buy a new mower. Otherwise, we're gonna fall behind. I mean, if we lose the 2 machines that are already in question, we're basically falling drastically behind on mowing. And I don't wanna see that happen, so.
So would you recommend that we not surplus anything until
I think
we
if-
get at least one more, hopefully next year, Bob?
I would say, you know, and I've spoke loudly about this, we have to get on a rotation where we're rotating the old mower out annually. And I know that's kind of hard to fit in the budget, but we have to get to that point. You know, this year, say we get the new mower, I want to surplus the old mower, but I want to surplus it to the water plant. Because we still have a lot of stuff that needs to be mowed, the infiltration gallery, the water plant. I mean, there's a lot of areas that they are required to make sure is maintained. So it's not like we're gonna get
But
rid
those
of.
mowers are not made to mow that, that's why we brush hog, that's
We've-
why they're hard to mow.
I understand. We've used those mowers up there for the last several years. I know I mowed up there
I know,
several years
but
with
that's
it.
why it's hard on those mowers like that to use, that's why brush hog is.
Well,
It's
my-
used up there forever.
But my question to you, Scott, is that because we already have 2 of the 4 that we would like to, circulate out of use, 2 of the 4 are questionable, so what I'm thinking is it's not a good idea to surplus, to get rid of one yet until we get at least 1 more purchased, possibly next year.
Just get this and hold on.
Right now, we're in a situation where I would not get rid of the 2 bad ones that we know, I would not get rid of them because we still may need to fall back and use them.
Or use them for parts.
So you used 4 mowers?
Last year we had 4.
4?
Well, and we had a homeowners, so we had 3 plus a homeowners version, a 52-inch Kubota, which was failing quite a bit.
You said you 226 hours per week? So even with 5 machines at 40 hours a week, that's only 200 hours, so I mean, you're still coming up short. So you can't get rid of anything until you figure out how the big mower is actually gonna work for an entire season.
Oh, yeah, and
There's
that's
something
something
to.
that I know it's cut down time.
What I'm saying is like, you shouldn't get rid of anything, because the math isn't adding up right now as it is with 5 mowers, so.
Right.
Augie?
Well, we fell behind in Memorial before after the cemetery. We fell behind at Rock Show. There were some special events with weddings and stuff, so we had to prioritize that spot or that area, and that. Then we still got the gallery. And, there's a whole lot of stuff.
A lot of people don't understand all the areas that these guys are responsible for. Okay, information tourist booth, they're responsible
I
for
can read
that.
them all off right now.
The park, the cemetery, Peabody Hale, the pool, the community building, the fire hall. I mean, I can keep going. These guys have got a lot of ground they have to mow, and we've got to get them the equipment.
Street Park, White River Trail, First Street, Gallery, South Wells, Water Plant, Sewer Plant, Street Shop,
Yeah.
Highway?
Alright, highway. So,
yeah, right away.
just quickly, based on if you take 226, figure maybe 15 weeks on average, that's 822 hours per machine per year. So I'd recommend the 2 years, because that's unlimited hours. We'll run out of hours on the.
Well, but it
board.
comes with both,
It comes
you said. It
So
comes
both
with
of them are-
both. You don't have to choose between either. It comes with
Sorry,
I
both.
was thinking-
So for the first 2
We only
years,
have a
you get
year
no matter
left.
what, and then for the 5, yeah.
I misunderstood.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the request for the new Super Z 72-inch zero turn. Yeah,
I'll second it.
Alright, and we're gonna take a brief intermission. Oh, wait, hold on. April. Sorry.
yes.
Sabah?
Yes.
Sheen?
Yes.
Now we're taking a brief intermission.
You know I
We're gonna resume. Number 14. Discuss, approve, disapprove park board's recommended hire for seasonal park and cemetery maintenance. Ian Anderson, $13.50 per hour.
Make motion to approve Ian Anderson temporary park for $13.50 an hour.
I'll second
Dean?
Yes.
Sabah?
it. Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Number 15. Discuss, approve, disapprove park board member Edward Black Sheep's resignation.
Why?
I'm ridiculously busy. I have a lot going on in my personal life. I'll still be around to volunteer with the park if they ever need my help.
We're trying to fill the boards, not.
I understand that, but I have a lot going on. I'm getting overworked and underpaid.
Make a motion to approve removing, or Edward Blacksheep's resignation from the park board.
I'll second it.
Dean,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Number 16, discuss, approve, disapprove advertising the 2 open park board positions.
Are we still advertising for all board positions?
I think we
I
are.
think we are.
Yes.
For board. You're currently advertising for employment, but have not been running ads for vacant boards.
Okay.
So we need to, I would rather do it for all board vacancies, not just the park.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve advertising for all open board positions. So that's planning commission, park board, villa.
We should have our villa filled tonight with Patty.
That was the only one you needed?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, never mind, not the villa then.
Does the golf board need any?
Golf board, we are full. Yes.
Alright.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Dean,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
and Grant.
Yes.
Alright, number 17, discuss, approve, disapprove Edward Blacksheep attending wastewater class 1 on June 23rd through 26th, 2025 in Wahoo, Nebraska.
So there's no one else that we can send along with him?
Well,
That's
I think for that class, Dennis already has his.
I have mine.
This would be to help
It's
us
basically
meet
your
the,
introductory wastewater
yeah, and
license.
this will help us meet the requirements on our permit to run our sewer plant at the current moment.
And at this time, we didn't want to steal park employees during the busy season. We can get them caught up maybe in the fall.
There's a third class this year in
Get somebody.
August or September, I believe. But there's only 3 classes this year. We missed the one in March. This is the next one coming up. And then there's the one a few months after that. But it's also gonna be out in Lincoln or Wahoo as well.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve Edward Blacksheep attending the wastewater class 1 on June 23rd to the 26th in 2025 in Wahoo, Nebraska, please.
I'll second that motion. I'd like to possibly send Augie to the next class coming up this fall. Would you be okay with that, Dennis? Sending
Yeah.
Augie to the next
I
class?
didn't want to steal park guys right in the middle of.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, the next class in the fall, after the mowing season's over.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay, Grant,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Alright, number 18, discuss, approve, disapprove Jody Bass attending G-Works onboarding training in Omaha on April 8th, 2025.
I did email her before to research. That is the only class that they are holding this year, and it is there in Omaha. They don't have anything scheduled. They don't plan on having any other onboarding training at all.
And this is what we hope to, this is for the new system, right?
This is
And so we
onboarding,
need
so
to-
it gives you the process of getting everything prepped and ready to onboard, and then they kind of go through some of the cloud process, from what I was understanding and stuff, so.
It's convenient, because Omaha's second,
Yes.
So do you feel only one person is necessary to go for your office?
It's entirely, the only thing is with Terry just starting to learn the system, I don't know. I mean, I'm open. If you want both of us to go, that's fine.
I don't think we can close City Hall.
Just throwing it out.
Just a day.
Well, we'll have to go down the day before and stay the night and then, yeah. So,
I mean, I'm okay with the idea of sending both of them down there as long as we can close City Hall for those 2 days. Just for training.
Guys, can we keep it down, please?
What if we ask Cindy to have someone in there on those 2 days then? she's got 2 part-timers, right? So have somebody in there that can take
Just call
water
her.
payments and
Answer calls.
answer the phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Check you're going on a vacation.
Somebody needs to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it,
For both of
for both, yes.
I'll second.
And
DeBock,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
and Dean.
Yes.
number 19, discuss, approve, disapprove billboards, newly appointed board member Patty Page.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Dean,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
DeBock.
Yes.
So discuss, approve, disapprove advertising for a grant writer, number 20. So with everything we have going on, I feel it would be good to have a grant writer for our town. I mean, like a specific designated person. I have spoke with some people from other towns. I was told at one time Valentine, and I'm not sure if they still utilize this, but they had a person that did, tourism part of the time, and the other time was grant writing, and were able to write into their grants payment for themselves.
Well, and most grant writers are covered by their grants that they write. I will say that the newly appointed board member, Patty Page, is a grant writer, so I don't know that that's necessary. We hire a full-time grant writer.
I guess the question is, Patty, are you willing to do grants whenever we need them?
Yeah, I've been working with April already on them.
I think we got a lot of projects, you know, that we need to look at grants. You know, this is not the first time the subject's been discussed between all of us at one point or another. I know the pool, we're gonna have to figure out some kind of grants there. The rodeo grounds, another priority, we're gonna have to figure out some grants. Replacement of all the fire hydrants in the town, that's another one that we're gonna have to look at grants for. The removal of some of the old city buildings and property, like the old fire hall and that, I mean, we're gonna have to look at possible grants for that.
You got a question?
Does the museum fall under that as well, since it's a
Very well. Brett?
My recommendation would be to hire an actual grant writer, one that answers to the council, not to the whims of 1 or 2 members of the council, or somebody has to answer to somebody. If it's a grant writer that's hired by the city, then it falls under the council to direct that person how to act or what to concentrate on, and that would be part of your action plan that hopefully you guys would create.
Yes, sir.
This is a few years ago when, I think it was about the same time that Nordrop was on and I was on, that there was a gal out of Norfolk area, Jane. And
I'm sorry, but she got in a lot of trouble.
Oh, I did not know that. Never mind. I stepped down.
I personally think it would be of value to have somebody hired, and maybe someone to focus on tourism. I mean, we don't catch a ton of the tourism that goes by anyways that support Robinson, so it might be somebody that could also try to focus ways to get more people into town.
I think it's critical at this point. The town can't really move forward with any of our big projects without financial assistance and grants. So I think at this point, it's a no-brainer. We have to hire a grant writer. I mean, I would love to see the pool, a new pool put in. I'd love to see the rodeo grounds repaired. But I know financially, the city can't do that by itself. So we have to have a grant writer to move forward.
So how do you write that out, Adam, where we can't pay them and they have to write it so they pay
Well,
themselves?
you're gonna have to ask for RFPs from grant writers. Just do request for proposals, see what they put. It's a specialized service, so you don't necessarily have to just put it in the newspaper, you just have to get all the people who are grant writers and see if they'll send you an RFP.
Oh, sorry, didn't see you.
I'd just like to throw in that a grant writer is worth their weight in gold. And get a grant writer that their expertise is in, like federal grants or whatever, because those federal grants are 150 pages long. You can't even answer the questions unless you work with them. And if you don't answer every question, you're taking points away from it, and you're just not gonna get it. So it'd be well worth your money and time.
I will say for me, I don't want to be a full-time, I already have a full-time job as a grant writer for another organization. But, I don't mind helping out, because all my grants are federal that I write, okay? That just happens to be who I deal with. You will want to look at, for grant writers, a lot of the times they'll take a percentage of the grant. So you have to be aware of that. They make a lot of money, grant writers do. I'm not saying I do because I work for a different place. But you just be prepared, if you get a good grant writer, you're gonna have to spend the bucks, so.
Patty, would you be open to taking on one grant at a time? You
Oh,
know?
yeah, no, I don't mind. Like I said, I do the federal grants, so I go through, grants.gov, you know. But the smaller ones, yeah, I have no problem with helping just as a citizen. I mean, I'm not asking for pay, that's not my thing. I just want to help as a citizen. So I think, you know, the town does need a grant writer, but I don't know that financially you can afford one.
Right.
You know, I don't know what your finances are, but just be prepared.
You might still like to put together an RFP though.
Yeah.
To get it.
So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the city researching and finding a grant writer and allowing the grant writer to send RFP to.
You put together, it's kind of like a job description that we want. And she might be able to help you with an RFP.
Is that something you can advertise in the paper, or is one assigned to one of the council members so it doesn't fall to the wayside?
I would say we'd have to advertise. It's equal opportunity. I think we give all the grant writers in the area an opportunity to show us that they have interest in helping us.
And you still gotta come up with a request for proposal, but you guys can do.
And that may be something to propose to Kelsey through the action plan situation.
Yeah, she
They
probably
have a list of
she could probably help with
resources.
that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
DeBock,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
All right. Number 21, discuss, approve, disapprove golf boards. Discuss, approve, disapprove golf boards, recommended seasonal hires for clubhouse and groundskeeper positions. Lois Suker, clubhouse manager, 17 per hour. Regina Lemon, assistant manager, $13.50 per hour. Fred Cruz, groundskeeper at $14 per hour. And Faye Hughes, groundskeeper at $13.50 per hour.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
No. No, the only one that stayed, Fred was already getting 14 last year. So Fred stays at 14. Everybody else got at least $1.50 an hour. Well, and low, and
Missy didn't.
Missy is still at 17, the same as she was last. $1.50 for minimum wage.
Oh, okay. I see.
Been 3 years.
Because it had to be brought up because of the, yeah.
And I know, we didn't give pay raises this year to.
Well, that's why I didn't want to make sure that, but it's just to meet the minimum then. So then they've decided to convert everything to minimum wage and no tips then? Because this is not minimum bartending.
So, there was a lot of discussion that night about if they don't make any tips that day, then we have to pay somebody to calculate how much we have to make up to get them to at least the $13.50 an hour. And it was decided that night that it wasn't worth paying an extra person and then also having City Hall have to calculate the change in wages.
So just be wages and no tips, and then the tips that you gather, what do you guys plan to do with them?
Well, we can do
like yours without the minimum wage, but we discussed that it would take Missy hours daily, and then to calculate the difference between, some days they make $3 tips. Sometimes they don't make any tips, and it would just be easier to do that than have Missy have to go through, spend hours calculating the difference, and then the city clerk would have to go through and recalculate it, making her job harder. It would just, ease everything across the board.
I understand that point, but there's gonna be people that still leave tips, so what's the golf course's plan to do with those tips?
Give it to the people that earn it.
Because if you're waiving tips for a salary, then it would make sense for the golf course to do something else.
That's right.
We kind of run a similar system with the restaurant, and it takes me about 32 seconds to figure out the hourly wage with tips in my head. Like, it does not take long to figure out. You're not wasting hours each day on figuring out.
You gotta catch them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, literally 30 seconds. I actually told one of my employees today how much they made to the penny in 30 seconds in my head. It does not take long.
Do you do that per day or per case?
So if you're gonna do the $8 per hour, whatever it is, plus tips, it's the daily, whether they collect enough tips to make their hourly wage that day. It's not over the course of the pay period or the week.
So it's just like overtime's calculated per week, it's tips and wages are calculated per day.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, and it's very quick and easy.
So at that wage, we have had nobody apply. The reappliers won't reapply. I mean, we won't have any help at $8 an hour because we're competing. The Fort pays 15, downtown she pays 12. Well, she'll probably start paying minimum wage now at Mandy. I am believing that Mandy, when I talked to her about it, she said she pays 12 last year and has a heck of a time keeping help. We have to have somebody that's over the age to be able to serve the alcohol.
Sure.
I don't think the time that I have to put in where I'm already working a shift, managing, scheduling, getting everything that's something else to pile on me when I have not got a raise since I started here. I'm at the same rate that I started 3 years ago. So I'm just saying, if we don't have help, then we pay the overtime, we pay extra people.
Sure.
The volunteers that I've had, they don't want to come back and volunteer every day.
Okay, so if you want to do the new rates and the different rates, then how are you going to deal with the payroll being over? Because last year, the golf course was over in payroll.
Well, I would say raise prices then, so that we can make money and pay our employees, so we can run. I mean, we're not hitting those tourists that come in. We have a lot of local support that comes every day, but they don't tip much. I mean, they do what they can, but they're there every day. They don't eat there every day, they don't drink there every day. But our tourists, when they come in, they spend money.
Sure.
They don't balk about it. We had it set up so that we would give the members a 20% discount by raising our prices for tourism, and then give the members a discount, but they all balked that they didn't want us knowing their business, how much they were drinking, what they were spending, which nobody even looks at that. I don't have time. I mean, if someone really cared, they might.
So if your goal is to make this a difference with tourism, then what are your goals with tourism? Because I haven't heard anything from.
But we're not
to say that
employees at this point, so we haven't been working on anything. I've been told to step back until I'm an employee to do any kind of
Which is
anything.
fine, and you've got a board member there, and these are still valid questions. So I mean, these are all things that the golf board, or the golf course as a whole needs to come up with solutions for. So if this is the path that you want to go, if this is what you would like to do to make it manage, or you feel you can't get anybody unless you overpay them, so be it. But what is your plan to make it end up okay in the long run? Because this will not end up okay in the long run. This is a lot more than we were all paid, that we paid anybody last year. And last year you were over by quite a bit. So what are the specific differences that you will do to counteract this extra charge so that way you will be okay in the long run?
We would like more people to apply. We ran the advertisement for, what, 4 or 6 weeks? We had two applicants sitting right here. We had 0 applicants because they heard the wages, they won't work for what we're offering. So, I mean, and the reason some of the wages were over, we didn't have the people, the manpower working. So these guys had to work in more hours, so they got paid more. I mean, we want to make it
But
work.
if they're covering shifts that weren't there, that's not over hours. That's still covered hours. That doesn't multiply them by 3. That just fills in whoever's gone. So that will not increase your hours to that degree.
But you were getting overtime because we would already put in our 40. And so somebody every week was getting overtime last year because we didn't have enough staff.
Okay, so like I said before, if you want to go with the new wages and not the lower wages, what are your plans to combat the difference?
We have tried to come up, we raised our prices last year.
Okay, but that was last year. Last year, you still didn't make the difference with the lower wages, and you want higher wages, but I need to know a difference so that I can make it okay and agree with it. Because right now, you're just telling me you want to spend double what you spent last year without bringing in any extra. I don't see, I'm not getting a response that helps support being able to agree with this. Does that make sense?
Having the clubhouse open. If we don't have employees to open the clubhouse, what are we gonna do? You know?
So we did discuss at the board meeting, there was nothing finalized that night, but we did discuss possibly raising, we didn't nail down a percentage, but raising cost or prices for items in the clubhouse a certain percent. But the board felt that raising membership fees was, since they did that last year, not to raise the membership fees this year.
Sure.
So a couple ideas maybe to suggest. One, drink prices went up downtown compared to what we had, from what I understand.
Well,
Looking to drink prices.
We have got to be equal or above
Correct.
the establishment, so we will raise our liquor prices.
Yeah, so.
To the downtown.
Right, and so that was my first suggestion. Second, should be able to increase greens fee and cart fee without increasing on members. I think that could be a possibility to look at for you guys. Because tourists, they're gonna golf. They expect to spend money, so. Just an idea.
We don't wanna, I mean, we have heard from the locals, the local is where a lot of our money comes from. And if we continue to raise our memberships, for the local people, we're gonna lose them.
Which is why I suggested just greens fee and cart.
And we have discussed raising our greens fees and, you know.
And just the cart rental fee.
Yes.
That would be my suggestion, Brent.
It's possible you guys could go have the treasurer pull all the hours per tips earned on employees. You can calculate exactly what they're making in tips per hour on average. Figure it out from there. There's a good chance. We're following it very closely. Everybody's heard it. Trump's eliminating taxes on tips, most likely, hopefully. That would be extra income for the city because you're not going to be paying all the taxes on those tips. And trust me, it's a lot. It adds up quick. But you may want to find out how many tips they're making per hour. That might help you make your decision if you're not planning on or don't want to open until April 1st. I know they want to get their staff hired, but if you're trying to find that equal balance of what they made, what, you should do that math, real quick and have an answer for yourself tomorrow on that.
And yeah, I would appreciate that information. And again, I'm not saying that I have a problem with any of these people making what they're making, or if you guys decide that the other version of wages is fine, but we need to have a game plan from the golf course as a whole to be different than we were last year. And right now, this just says more money without a way to combat it.
For one thing, the golf board did not set the wages last year. The last 2 years, the golf
Correct.
board has
Correct.
not, you know, the
Correct,
city council.
but it was already
yeah.
over and you're asking for more than that.
Can I throw in 2 cents? I looked at the finances of the golf course fairly detailed because I tried to figure out what was causing the golf course to go over every year. Last year, overtime killed you guys. You guys paid so much money in overtime, that was your deficit at the end of the season and why you guys were in the hole.
Well, and you had overtime outside of the season. You had 3 months outside of the season that was paid, that was not paid in previous years. Because Missy and Gina started in the end of January to get the new system up. And we've not had anybody have 2 positions to have an extra 3 months on salary or on pay, because it's normally just 2 weeks before the season. We did a special hire that early to have the computer system up. That's another part of how it was over.
So you won't have that cost this year, correct?
Right.
What's the top 5 expenses?
The biggest one that killed them last year was the overtime.
What's number 2?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I just looked at the overtime as the one that was the dramatic killer for the golf.
There's gotta be a balance somewhere.
And if we could get more employees, we would not have that problem.
Trust me, we'd like to not work overtime.
Right.
Ronnie, did you have a question?
Just something to point out.
No.
When I worked in eastern Nebraska at a big golf course, like you were saying, as far as everybody's saying, the clubhouse changed the prices of which I know our clubhouse don't sell a lot of apparel. I know that. But, you know, like on apparel, alcohol, fees, and then as far as the golf carts, you would be surprised, like everybody's been saying, you know, over here, a lot of our people, the club, as far as them paying more, that's not where the money should come from. It should come from our tourists. Because the tourists are using our facility at half to almost 3/4 less than they would back home. What is it now as far as 8 holes?
9 holes?
9 holes.
9 holes with the carts, 42.
24.33.
I think 9 holes with carts, $42.
And it's 24.33 for carts and
Okay, say it's
$48.
say it's $35 for 9 holes. That's $70 for 18. You try and pay that little price in eastern Nebraska or even up in Hot Springs. Go up and see what Hot Springs charges you.
I go for $20 in Hot Springs.
You know, and it's just one of those, you know, that's where they're gonna make their money up, where they can have the people in there.
The other thing that happened last year was there was an increase in price for renting facility, so that should help also. Do you remember the actual prices?
We have a committee that's working on new prices for leasing.
Because that should be set.
Well, like, okay, to have a party out there, right now, you close the clubhouse, it's $150. You can't rent anything for that price. So Missy and I are going to get together and increase, so if you, like per hour or per day, we're coming up with different prices because that's pretty cheap. I mean, you can't get anything.
Doesn't cover the labor.
No.
Yes, Jess?
I'd just like to point out currently the positions you are trying to approve are technically your groundskeepers don't get any tips, so
Right.
those two are kind of thrown out. The two that you're looking at are essentially kind of considered salary pay. In the long run, it used to be salary and they broke it down to hourly
But we
a few
didn't-
years back.
we didn't
But
have a
it's
system in
just
there, we didn't
the,
advertise for it.
I mean, for time's sake, we're discussing two people that are just trying to get it open, then you can discuss your rates.
Sure.
Figure out a plan for others that might.
For me, the biggest thing is we've got to eliminate overtime. I mean, after I did the deep dive into finances, overtime killed us. I'm okay with paying these wages, but our city employees, just for example, our water guys, you know, our park guys, we don't approve them overtime. You know, and that's how we've been able to save money. We're gonna have to do similar with the golf course. We're gonna have to.
Yes, ma'am.
Jane Daly. Okay, so you only paid them overtime last year because they started in January.
No, we paid them during the season, we paid them overtime
Yeah,
because
but
of lack of
because-
manpower.
Because they started in January.
It
If
happened
you're,
both
if you're
ways.
well,
happened
they're only
both
open
ways.
7 months. If you don't let them work more than mid-March to mid-October, then they don't get overtime. They don't
So,
get time
so
and
they
a half.
got overtime because they worked more months than they normally do, but
Yeah.
then they also got overtime on a weekly basis because they were working more shifts than 40
They were over
hours.
their 40 hours.
So it was compounded.
But it was only, even when you work over 40 hours, if the season is not, if the recreational facility, the clubhouse is not open more than mid-March to mid-October, you don't, there's no overtime.
Then that needed to be looked into to make sure it wasn't paid that way then.
Yeah. Right.
Alright.
That's what
So-
It's exempt, so as a recreational facility, it's exempt from.
So do we have a motion?
Employees didn't get paid overtime.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
That's great. James, really sticker
Yes.
from Water?
Yes.
And Fran?
Yes.
Alright,
Excuse me,
Number-
what was the motion? I couldn't hear it.
approved. We approved those 4 positions.
The hiring.
Yep,
At those wages?
yes.
Yes, that's what was said.
Yep.
Okay, just clarifying.
Number 22, discuss, approve, disapprove opening Legend Beach Golf Course on April 1st, 2025. That's generally when it opens every year.
And obviously, you know, as we discussed, that, at least that first month, you know, it's weather dependent, whether it's gonna be open or not. So, it's not, we're not going gangbusters April 1st, I mean,
Ease it into it.
yeah.
Alright.
I'll make a motion.
So, with what we just understood as seasonal work, be very careful, like if your groundskeepers or whoever, if they're gonna be possibly working more than 40 hours, when your season's gonna start for them. I understand the golf course doesn't open until April 1st, but when do they start prepping the course? Those types of things to when they need to lock up, close up. Get your dates set right where they don't go in over that 7 months, so you don't have to pay that overtime. Because you get to the end of the season, you may owe all that overtime if you work more than a 7 month. So be careful on your dates on the groundskeepers.
She said 7, it's tied to 7 months.
And manage the
Huh?
And manage.
Well, that, just be very careful because you could end up costing yourself a big old bill at the end of the season if you don't time this right.
Well, but it's still.
Well,
If somebody
by,
goes down,
by the end of the season, I mean, we're down to, you know, really one person.
Make a motion to approve opening on April 1st, please.
I'll second
Fran?
Yes.
DeBock?
it. Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Number 23, discuss, approve, disapprove allowing the clubhouse manager and assistant manager to start working part-time on March 17th, 2025 until the golf course opens.
I'll make a motion to approve this. I will say that we can't expect any overtime during the season. So you'll need to make a game plan to make sure that you recruit whoever you need to make it happen, and we cannot have any overtime.
I'll second that.
May I ask that when I come and need more help to get people hired,
We've always
that we approve
advertised
that?
more.
That's what happened last year, is I brought to council to get more
The
people
last time we
hired.
didn't is because by the time it would go to ad, it would be after you needed them, and so we couldn't, it wouldn't have done you any help. Other than that, we approved every other time.
But if I get it in early enough and I need extra help, we will.
We've always run those ads.
Perfect.
But it's gonna require more than an ad. It's gonna require you guys to be out there actually recruiting individuals. That's just the market that we're in.
Scott did a second. Thank you, Dad.
Grant,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
Keith.
Yes.
All right. Discuss, approve, disapprove continuation of advertising for seasonal clubhouse position.
Make a motion to approve.
I would amend that to advertise until we're full.
Yeah,
Continue advertising until we're full.
I'd second that.
I have a question,
Where?
because I'm confused. So, we're hired, but the new employees that we need to hire to fill those spots in the clubhouse, are we going to advertise those positions at $13.50 an hour then? I mean, I can't go talk to somebody on the street, try and talk to them to come to work at the golf course unless I can say this is what they're offering.
What would the board like to do?
Get enough people to cover the position.
So what would you like
so
to do?
If we don't pay overtime any, I think 13.50, or, you know, if they're new, 10, you know.
We can't go to.
So what would you like to do?
So what is the requirement with the new, minimum wage?
Minimum wage is $13.50 or
It's $13.50.
But for wait staff,
It's $8.50, I think, is what we
that's right.
figured.
I just feel if you're gonna pay $8.50 an hour, we're not gonna get the people, and so
I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the golf course not being able to make a decision to bring to us so that we know what your game plan
Okay,
is so
then
that you
we
can meet
want
your
to the
goals.
new hires-
If we're not giving you what you need to meet your goals, then ask for what you need so that you can meet your goals and then therefore deliver what we need you to deliver.
Okay.
So if that's what you need, then you need to make it clear and then you need to deliver.
Okay,
That's all I'm asking for.
then the clubhouse positions be hired at $13.50 an hour.
How many more positions you think you need?
Well, most of, maybe 2, and like for part-time, 2 part-times, and, like during tournaments and stuff, 3 people would be great. The board members have volunteered before, but the last 2 years, we were told we could not volunteer our time. And I have volunteered out there years, and I was told I couldn't last year.
Ron?
Okay, question for the, golf board. How many people that work for you, just work for you, not on the board, are golfers? Actual golf, it's just a question.
Last year,
Yes.
weren't on the board, everybody.
That work there.
Why not give them the $13.50? Which back in eastern Nebraska, and I also worked in one in, middle part of Nebraska. Why not giving them incentive for 1 per week or twice a week? An incentive of free golf. The golf,
Your employees that worked out there last year had memberships. There was
Well,
only
it's an
one that I know of that didn't, and she paid as she went, but
it's an incentive, that always helps.
Brent?
I guess as a business owner, I'm sitting here kind of dumbfounded, throwing around numbers, but what's the budget for payroll for the golf course? What can we afford to give people? How many employees can we afford to have? I mean, it's, somebody as a manager around here has to know what the payroll is, what we can afford. You say you went through the books, we have managers or golf board members here. Somebody has to know what we can afford per payroll to be able to make some money here. This is just, as a business owner, I'm confused. I mean, I know how much I can spend, I know how many I can hire before I just have to work to work. I mean, there has to be a limit, there has to be a cap.
Blue.
We have not had a budget, an exact budget to go over since Jane quit. We have not been able to approve a budget that we receive because there's a lot of things happening that is not right on the budget, so we will not approve the budget. And we would like, I mean, 2 meetings ago, the clerk came and we went, I wasn't there, but they went over and she explained stuff. It would just help if we had a current budget to go over at all of our golf board meetings, which we haven't had since 2022.
We will get that to you. Ron?
Why don't we try a golden idea once of all accounts receivable from the golf course go into a fund and the golf course be its own entity and the debits come out of it and know exactly what it brings in and exactly what it makes and do some more audits. Have an accountant look at it every year so we know. I was on the council for several years and I know about the general fund and the numbers for accounts, and I would like to see the golf course be its own entity. You still be the cities, but all accounts go in and out of it.
You guys brought up last year.
So I guess on this, do we want to try to figure out?
How many positions, how many part-time positions did you have last year?
I had 3 last year.
Was that sufficient?
Yes,
So you would like 3 this year?
and I had 4 full-time employees last year. Well, not really.
We had 3 full-time employees.
We had 2 full-time and then the 2 girls that would work part-time. Then I had the fill-ins for the tournaments was 3.
Okay, so let me ask that a little bit different. What would you like for staff this year?
I would like 4 full-time, 2 fill-in.
So
Okay,
4
so that's
full-time
double
and
what
2
we had for
part-time.
full-time last year though, correct?
Not really, because Gina and I ended up working,
Well, you're not including yourself, we're
we
talking
ended up
about just
working,
Oh,
the
in
additional
addition to
staff.
us, 2.
yeah,
So you want
in addition
2
to us, 2.
2 full-time, 2
Yeah.
part-time,
2 full-time,
that's it.
that's it.
You feel that would be sufficient?
Yep.
And that's comparable to what you had last year?
Yep.
So as long as you watch your overtime, you should be within reasonable means, you feel? Do you feel that would be fair?
Please try again.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to approve advertising for seasonal clubhouse positions, 2 full-time seasonal and 2 part-time seasonal, please, at $13.50 an hour.
All right.
Grant,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
Dean.
25, discuss, approve, disapprove, setting a date and time to have a joint meeting with the golf board.
Any suggestions for a date?
Where's our next golf board meeting?
Next golf board meeting is the 31st of this month.
Yes,
Maybe tomorrow.
Wanna do that?
just, we can, don't you have to advertise it? For 3 days,
Yep, just like a normal meeting.
so this is,
Next Monday. So what?
Kayla's been in the hospital for 14 days. I'm going to Texas on the 17th for a week to be with her.
So are you wanting earlier?
Well, Friday would be the only time.
And we're out of town,
They're out
we
of
have to
town,
be here,
they're
we're out
running,
of
so it
town.
would have to be,
But they're not bored.
So we don't have to be.
no, but, okay, let me,
Why don't we come back to this one?
Okay,
and let-
go ahead.
I'll hold right now. and-
Go ahead and do
Our
it.
next meeting is the 31st. How about, and your next council meeting will be the 25th, correct? So how about the 26th or 7th, right before your council meeting? So we could.
That's after.
Whoa, God, I'm sorry.
23rd or 4th?
25th, yeah.
You're not gonna be back.
No,
from
but
Texas.
you guys can have it without me. I mean, unless we go into the first week in April and do something like, you know, if we need to on the, not 8th of April.
Blue, can I recommend we just shoot for the 1st of April? And that way we have time and you have time to get budgets available for both parties to look at.
Well, yeah, it would be nice for us to be able to look at a budget before we meet with you guys, so we could kinda, that would be a good idea, Scott.
Okay. I'll make a motion for the 1st of April. Let's do the 1st.
At 6.
At 6, that's fine. 1st of
Where?
April at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Here or at the golf course?
Let's do it at the golf course.
Fun.
We're fine with that. That way it's not interfering with Ashy.
So we have a second?
I'll
That's your
second that.
opening day at the golf
There
course?
we go.
I was gonna say, that's,
It'll-
most of the time,
It'll
there's
be
nobody
fine.
there, you guys. The first, I
Yeah,
mean,
it'll be all right.
yeah.
I just want to thank everybody for being open-minded to the joint meeting, because I think getting everybody together and getting everybody on the same page will be very beneficial for everybody's stress and questions.
So did I have a second?
Devon,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
All right. Number 26, discuss approve, disapprove building permit approved by planning commission for 305 First Street, Crawford livestock installation of a truck scale.
Okay. I know I talked with Shane about this last night. I've talked to a lot of my own neighbors about this. I have concerns, okay? Biggest concern is that we're talking about putting a truck weight scale 25 feet from a local resident's house.
It's
Okay.
a commercial zone.
I understand
Doesn't
that, but we have a residential zone 25 feet away with private citizens who have homes right there.
What's the difference between the scale where it is right now and the citizens that live right there? I mean, I'm just wondering.
I know.
There is no difference. It's
We've
the
got to
same
come up
amount
with a
of-
better location. I know we need a weight station. That is critical, I understand that. But my thing is, we have to come up with a better location. You know, we're already bringing all of our truck traffic down First Street because that's basically our only way.
It's the only way.
If we put a weight station there, now we're gonna have trucks backed all the way up to the villa waiting to go on this
When
weight
did you
station.
see trucks backed up at the previous scale?
I've
When
seen-
was the last time you saw trucks backed up down the street?
It's been a while back.
Never. So it isn't what you're thinking, that it's a constant flow of trucks. You might have 3 trucks at the top of it, you might have 1, you might have 10 in a day. It's not like, and I understand what you're saying, 100%. And if I felt that there was a better option, we have exhaustive resources. I would love to tear down the grain elevator and put up a scale there, but there's a couple of problems with that. One, the railroad has blocked our access. That's the only way to get on the scale there. It's 70 foot. We've got to have an 80-foot scale for triple axle cattle pots. And it's a residential area also. I have discussed with council members different locations. The dirt work isn't there, the electricity isn't there. I mean, there's a gravel road there. I mean, there's a lot of problems with a lot of the places in our community, as we all know. But what you're thinking of, I just want to clarify, what you're thinking of as a truck scale being constant, it won't be any different than a sale day. In fact, it'll be lighter traffic. And the bulk of the traffic is in the summer. I mean, and when I say bulk of the traffic, we have hay that needs weighed, grain that needs weighed. It's not just us. I mean, Jason Hauser needs places to weigh his grain, and he can't get on the scale. First of all, it's not certified. We tried to buy that property. They wouldn't sell it to us. They told us that we could lease it for $950 a month and do all of the upkeep. Well, it's a dilapidated building, and it's a 70-foot scale. So, to us, that didn't make sense, plus it's restricted access.
And I understand that, but I have to go back and look at everybody here in the community. I wouldn't put a weight scale next to her house 25 feet away or her house 25 feet away. That's a lot of extra noise, you know, that's a lot of extra contamination, because let's be honest, the cattle pots dump urine, they dump
Well,
manure.
they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to, but we used to see it all the time
Yep.
going up every hill. We already have a swamp that we're dealing with right at that location. Every time it rains, now we're gonna have manure.
Yeah, it comes through my yards, remember, I know this.
Okay, but
It
we're gonna
still
have
is coming
manure,
through
we're
my
gonna have
yards.
urine, all that stuff now washing down into that swamp area. And that's not fair to the residents who live 25 feet away.
She's farther than that away, street right away.
From the center of the street to where Jolene's.
Okay,
house
here's my intention, or my thoughts. Okay, I understand where they're coming from, what they need. That's understandable. We all understand where you're coming from as far as the houses. But where I'm looking at is, that's the city park. How would you like to come from out of town and stay at a city park where there's crap and piss smell? It's bad enough,
It's not.
don't get me wrong, but I'm just
It's
saying.
privately owned.
We try, and how did, no, wait a minute, and how did they get that land? And this is a question for the attorney. When I was on the council, we couldn't sell it because
It's privately owned. It's privately owned property. I don't know.
right
where-
across from.
It's not.
It's a privately owned.
And it's, the city doesn't own it.
Yeah. And the
You
city
talk about
wouldn't
right
be
at-
giving us anything, we would be purchasing this.
Right on the other side of Main Street?
Right at the intersection.
They're talking across from.
South side is Main Street.
Yeah, where that gal lives,
The end of Elm.
or the trailers are. Where that trailer is sitting.
It's.
Where that camper.
It's private property, correct. But on the other side, when I was on the council, they tried to get they didn't, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, but there was a gentleman that was trying to get a slaughterhouse put in on the other side. And we downed it because of some of the things that's going on here.
So
But that's neither here nor there.
Give it to them, just vote yes and be done with it.
So I.
You know, it's all about the stock yard right now.
I'm still trying to understand where this is. If you Google 305 First Street, that is almost directly west of my house.
So Google's not as accurate in rural Nebraska as
I
it
get
should
it's
be.
not.
So
That's what
I would
wanna know.
recommend if you need to look up anything that's in our community that is an address, use the local Dawes County GIS because it's gonna be a lot more accurate.
Well, I'm just.
This is across the street from Charlie's business,
To the west.
south of the entrance of the park, west of Charlie's business. Right now, it is gravel and
Actually,
a,
got the map, you can pull it up.
sure, it's gravel and a carport, and I think I've seen like a boat park there at times. It's a private property that's located on that strip.
And how much sewer and water goes underneath that? The city map shows 1 4-inch water line that George Sears has been of.
You got a storm sewer right across the
I'm sorry,
street.
say
on
that
the corner.
again, Raylene.
I know, huh?
Say that one more time,
The
please.
city map shows 1 4-inch water line from the alley behind Charlie's that go across there. It doesn't show any sewer lines.
Sewer right there.
So, storm sewer.
There's a storm sewer that goes into that. Sewer doesn't go up there.
So there are sewer lines near there,
No.
is that?
It's the storm sewer that
Right,
goes
but on
into
the
that
other
ditch.
side of the street, there's
Right,
sewer lines.
but that's.
Just like there is at the other
Right,
side.
so I gotta, let's raise hands with comments and stuff. Do have a question, is that something you guys looked into when building possibly?
We had an engineer come.
A drain to go into the sewer lines?
we don't know about that.
No, I'm just.
The
I'm
engineer
just-
wasn't concerned about the waste, just like we are not concerned about the waste because.
I'm concerned about the
Well,
waste.
but-
I am too.
Hold on, hey, hey,
Hold on.
guys, hold on.
In the same capacity that the other scale had waste that no one was concerned about, but now this one. Ronnie, I appreciate you
Guys,
not
guys.
talking while I am.
Why, you
Hey,
did what I
hey,
did.
stop, guys, we're gonna end it.
So no, to answer your question, no, I don't know. That would be an option and we would absolutely do it if we needed to, but we haven't. We had to see if we even could get it approved before we went forward with any.
No, I get that, I just.
Yep,
asked-
absolutely.
Trying to do due diligence and ask, yes.
They're getting, Rich told us when he presented it to the planning commission, they're obtaining a survey. So, all of that information will be.
Okay, so I
You know,
just,
what would really be helpful if we could get a city map down here.
It's right there.
Well, no, it shows everything.
Yeah. The one that
Shows, this is the end of Elm Street, this is the end of Main Street.
And where
No,
that
it
is
rains
wrong.
over here.
No, you're wrong.
guys, I will stop it. Let's raise hands, wait to be called on.
I just wanted to point out that where he drew, Rich drew, that is where the scale would be located. So it wouldn't be at the front of the block, it would essentially be in the middle of the block.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I live at the end of that street. I agree that Crawford needs a scale for all of the trucks and stuff like that. I am not a big fan of the location, just for my kids that play on that street with all the truck traffic. I know there's already truck traffic on it and stuff right now, but I just think that I work for the railroad, I've seen the trucks back up, the pots line back up down there when that scale was open, waiting to get weighed. So I know that there's going to be trucks that are lined up right there. There's going to be residue from the waste of the animals that are on there and stuff. And, you know, my thought today when I heard about it last night when I got a phone call about it, what about the field in between the fire hall and the golf course? Is there anything that's open right there that could be annexed for this? You have the traffic you can make a big loop that can come in one way or the other. Trucks can go east, they can go west from there.
We would have loved that, but we didn't think, Joe, that when I had talked to some people in the city, that they did not think that essentially where the balloon building is, Joe, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, where you have
Yeah.
the community garden right on the south side.
And
of the
we
hall.
did, that would be wonderful, but that the city would not sell it to us.
Well, I think the city should reconsider.
Well, the problem that the city runs into is when we have property, it has to go up for bid for sale. You can't just do a private sale and pick one citizen over another or a specific project over another. We couldn't make it happen even if everybody in town said, hey, that's a wonderful idea, please sell it to them. So there's that clause in it that makes it difficult. If we did put it up for bid and somebody else bought it over top of them, then that, wouldn't help the situation either.
Okay, Riley.
Correct me if
Hey,
I'm wrong.
guys, keep it
Correct me
down.
if I'm wrong, Alicia, but don't the trucks use the weight on your scale in the ring for their weight?
They use the weight of the live animal.
Yeah.
But the scale for us would be essentially used for our video deliveries. The scale and the sale barn are two different entities.
I know they are.
But so what
most
they
of
do
what
is.
goes through your barn, they use that weight.
They use the weight in the scale when they
Yeah.
sell them at the market. What the scale wherever the scale may be, what it is used for is a truck driver will come, weigh empty, and then they will go get the cattle, and then they will come back and weigh and leave. So we have a marketable weight for the product.
I know that we have trouble weighing hay. Because if you go down to Heritage, you have to unhook your pickup, weigh the trailer, hook it back up, go get your load, come back, do the same thing.
And this scale is not certified, so if you are wanting to use a ticket for actual commerce, one, it's illegal for cattle. They will get a fine from the packers and stockyards. We can't use that. And you shouldn't use it for any other commerce because it could be a difference of 100 to 1,500 pounds on a load, so.
So I would like to say thanks, Joe, because you're the only one that showed up here to, I guess, speak against it, actually came with a solution, so I appreciate that. You know, if we're gonna poo-poo ideas for any business in town, that's kind of what I expect is have a solution, not just come to condemn.
Well, and I'm not saying that this is just has to be it. We just have to have a scale. So if anyone has an idea, we are all ears.
So we do have that land north of the falling down grain elevator.
Right, but it's not long enough. We have to have 100 feet.
Did we figure out who has the very end of it? Because we're kind of sitting in the
And
middle.
it's the same kind of difference, Shane. It's in a terrible location.
Okay, nope, just asking.
But I appreciate that, and I had talked to Adam about that. The scale itself, just the scale, has to be 80 feet.
Right.
And then the concrete outside of it. So we're looking at 100 feet just for the scale.
Okay.
Has the city tried to figure out who owns the property across the street to that where the grain elevator is?
So,
Yes, there's been many people that have looked at that, with no answers. The title company doesn't know who owns it. The railroad says maybe they do, but it's kind of out there.
And last documentation I got, it was the Friends of White River Trail. I mean,
which
isn't
a
an
defunct
entity.
corporation.
But it's not defunct.
Okay,
raise hands, guys.
I would say inactive. It's not current at state. Is it?
Excuse
Wow.
me? It is current.
Is it? Okay, it wasn't last time I looked.
Well, it is.
I can argue it.
And actually, our railway, our right of way on that does not actually go that far. It actually, the city has developed it from the park to the corner of the nursing home.
And I'll just say, it's a good question, because the city really doesn't own it. But there have been parties that have had Dallas County Abstract look at the title to that, and it's not clear who owns it. The railroads may have some passing interest, but there's really no clarity even to the title company. So there's the problem with that. So if you want to do something with that property, who do you go to try to get good title from? That's the holdup of that.
Yes.
This is probably for Adam. When there is a piece of property, because that would be an ideal location, if the falling down grain elevator wasn't there, and there's a lot of expense for tearing things down. But back to my question, if there is a property that is abandoned that no one owns, that is within the city limits, why cannot a city take it?
Well, because it would be condemnation, and we have to give notice to the owner, and we don't know who the owner is.
Yeah.
You could conceivably, but that would have to be an action of this board, and there's cost. And you gotta pay, you can give the notice, but you have to pay market value to who the owner is. And so then you gotta get an order from the court to say, well, we've condemned this, but we don't know who the owner is. We've given publication notice, we have this money, who are we supposed to pay?
So you establish fair value for the property.
Yep.
One.
Yep. Fair enough.
Okay, then you put that money in the bank. If somebody tries to claim it, you pay them the claim for the property at the assessed value at the time. Fair and simple, my opinion only.
So if we went that route, is that an idea that you would?
Well, that would double the cost. I mean, tearing down the building itself would be a huge undertaking. So, I mean, the scale itself is $200,000. That's what it would cost to bring a scale to town.
Right.
So, I'm not saying no. If the possibility was available that could be purchased at fair market value with knowing that we have to tear down a building, that would have to help to establish the fair market of the value of the property that has no value with a dilapidated, and we don't know what's under there. I mean, you know, under the, so the tear down is more than we probably think it is, not knowing, not getting into it.
would you be willing to give us some time to look into that?
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be good. You guys okay with that?
Do you have I mean, you talked about making plans after approval. Do you have any appointments coming up or anything that?
Well, we were going to have it surveyed, but I'm not going to put any money into it until it is approved.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure that
Yes.
we're not.
So I can call him tomorrow
Yeah, good with
and postpone it, because it's $2,500 just to have someone come survey it. So, and I knew all of this going into it.
Right. So why don't we, if someone wants to make a motion to, list it, or, you know, put it in the paper.
So, it's a court proceeding, you have to,
Okay.
I will come back to you with the process.
Okay.
Fair enough?
I got a question for the attorney. So the Railroad Act of 1875, when railroads were established through the area, I believe that it says in there that if they were, if the railroad ever abandons it, that the land automatically reverts to adjacent landowners.
A reverter. The question there, from my understanding, because again, I'm getting this from the title company, that there may have been some transference to
Prior to.
somebody else, which nobody's clear as to. It's a mess. It is a mess.
Right.
I think that would pertain to the track itself and a certain
Yeah.
easement off the edge of
Probably.
the track, and that is a purchased property or a given property for ownership outside of that law. That would be my guess.
I think what I've understood, and I can talk to Dawes County Abstract again, but they had maybe some shell company at some point that wasn't a railroad, it was one of their corporations that operated or built that. And then in all that, railroad, it's just
There was
unfair.
a similar situation in Bellevue, Nebraska, where I'm from, and I worked on the property itself. There was a concrete company that was given that portion of use by the railroad. But then the railroad abandoned the property, but the concrete company actually had to get off the property because of that variance in the law. It was so far off the track that that became an ownership issue, and that fell to the tax battle because the city of Bellevue wanted to get tax money off that property.
And then we maybe play into what White River Trails is, because they have that rail bed, I believe.
You know, I have all the railroad maps, if that would help you guys.
That's fine.
It may or it may not.
Railroad maps right
Our
here.
deed.
What you guys have, that's a whole nother question about, there's questions all over on the railroad right away,
Yes.
west of here,
Oh,
as far as
So-
my county is concerned.
yes, you're right.
On item 26, okay, and this, let me word this carefully. I want you guys to have a truckways.
I understand that,
Okay,
and I understand your reservations.
but at this time, I want to make a motion to disapprove this location. I do not want this 25 feet from residential homes. I do not want this at the entrance of our city park.
Do I have a second? Alright.
I would rather table it, because if we can find another location and it has anything similar to another home and they're okay with it, it's gonna look really prejudiced, and I don't like that. So I would rather table it with no decision and see if there's something else that we can further proceed with, to see if something can be adjusted, or we can find another lot, or whatever
My
it may
question
be.
would
So
be-
that way it doesn't carry, if we find another area, that we don't have to, well, you did it with this and you didn't do it with this, or whatever. I would just like to.
My question to you would be then, okay, what if we don't find a different location? We're gonna come right back to this same location again. And I am not okay with that.
If they want to present it again, but they might not want to present it again at that point. Like, we don't have to consider it again unless they want to.
So we have a motion, nobody seconding? So that motion dies.
He was getting ready
Sorry,
to speak.
sorry, Skip.
Yeah, I think I'd be more comfortable with tabling this for now and do some, more investigating. And, I did start the other day trying to comb through stuff that I found on that grain elevator. I don't know if I'm gonna get anywhere with it or not.
I have a lot of information on it, and that's how I knew, and it's the most current I could find, that it's the Friends of White River Trail. It was the organization that helped with the trail. And that was the last known owner of the property. But, we don't, and the people that were on that committee, there's still some in town, but there's, the bulk of them are.
I am the president.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you can call me.
and the other reason why I want to table this is because it seems to me like the planning commission needs to hold a hearing. If you decide that this is your only option, then I would refer it back to the planning commission to actually have a hearing and let people come and speak on the matter and make the decision, a public hearing.
But they have a public meeting.
Yeah, they did.
They advertise the public meeting,
Okay,
people
so
can
then-
come speak at, just like this.
Yeah,
So they've satisfied.
So then we hold a hearing where people can come talk for or against it.
I
This is
completely
not an
understand
opinion.
your reservations, and I understand that that feels like it's in your neighborhood. I will say right now, it's in my neighborhood. There is not a day that my business does not deal with the current scale, the defunct of it, how it is not functional, how it's not even legal, and people are still trying to crawl in there and back stuff up. And I've had numerous vehicles hit. I have had damage to my property by these things. I truly understand where you're coming from. I just don't want to, if we can come to a different location, I don't want to impede that location if it works better than anything else. Like, I would rather just let it table and be able to consider anything anew as a clean slate.
I guess for me, hold on, Shane. I guess for me, I'm never gonna be okay with it being within 25 feet of anybody's house, okay? I wouldn't do that to your house, I wouldn't do that to his house, I'm not gonna do it to anybody's house. I don't think it's appropriate that we put a weight station 25 feet away from the.
And that's a fair statement, but we will have, you do have to consider that we are a little bit highway locked as far as Crawford is set up. So if that's a very strong decision you feel with, that's fine, but that does limit what we can do to progress in business, residential, any of that. So it's something to consider. And I would like to just not make any consideration at this time and come back when it's something we can consider.
Alright, so there was a motion on the table. Are we gonna have a second? No. Motion dies. I would like to table this. I need a motion.
I would like to, I mean, I don't have any problem with the scale. I don't think anybody has a problem with the scale. It's the scale location currently. So if we can work to solve that problem, I'd like to see the city do it. At the same time, no matter where it's at, I think it would be fair to the city to have a public hearing, like Chris suggested, to let people voice their opinion on it. It's their city, it's not your city. It's not your opinion of what you want in our town. It's what the people of this community would like to see and where they would like to see it. I don't think there's anybody in here that's saying they don't want a scale. They would love to have a scale. It's just, that location currently, although convenient and really a good location for that scale, may not be in the best interest of the community. We need to hear that from the people of Crawford before any decisions are made. Thank you.
And to continue with what Tony said, the reason that I want to have a hearing is because it seems really one-sided, and we're a town of 800 and whatever, 40, whatever people. This is a very small group, and I want to hear from more than just a few that came down to protest it. I'm going to make my decision, it'll be decided on when I hear from more people than just what's sitting here.
Okay. Ronnie?
Thank you. Mr. Edmund, when I was on the council, as far as an old dilapidated, area, as far as the grain elevator, as far as the railroads, wasn't there a gentleman that lived catty corner across the street?
He did, he had.
He had a bunch of information?
Actually, as far as I know, he had made the original request to Dawes County Abstract for information.
He went to one of the railroads and got it as far as that.
He said that, he's never told me that, I've heard that, Ronnie, I don't know.
I can get with that and have him maybe come down to the mayor and talk to the mayor, so the mayor maybe, also,
The information I got was from the title company, they were unclear.
but he got it from, title company, Dawes County, 2 railroads out of Texas that had it, which transferred to the third one.
Oh, I'm sure
He
the
talked to
railroad
people in
has
Texas.
its own, the railroad doesn't always know what the left and the right hand are doing, so.
I can have him come talk to you.
Joe?
Yeah, Norman.
I would go back to my original thought. I'd implore the city to at least consider, you guys need money, the location in there, even if you put it up for public bid, I mean, honestly, who really would like that property besides the sale barn? I mean, it could be a win-win. I just ask you guys to at least consider it.
From the planning commission standpoint, everything was legitimate in their request. You know, how we felt about it personally, it didn't matter, because that property's zoned commercial.
Right.
So maybe if you guys don't want this to happen again, you should consider.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
That's appreciated, thank you.
Do we have a motion to take?
Yeah,
Somebody second?
Okay, I'll second it too.
Dean,
Yes,
Grant,
Yes.
and DeVoe.
Yes.
We'll take no action next week when we have it. It's fine, I'll table it tonight.
All right, let's see. Number 28. Discuss, approve, disapprove American Cell Tower contract. Discuss, approve, disapprove American Cell Tower contract.
so I have a big problem with the contract that they sent us. This, it gives them perpetual use of land at our water treatment facility. That's the one big thing that I do not like. And I had told a couple of people on the council here that, what I had found online was, that it was a foreign-owned company, ATC Sequoia LLC. Well, you can't believe everything you find online. So I did some more research. I found out that ACT Sequoia is actually owned by, I just lost the term, big investment groups like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. So that's an even bigger red flag for me, giving them perpetual use of any land anywhere near our water treatment facility. I can't support that. So council has been sent a new proposal that I think
Actually,
cleans things up.
the contract is one-sided. It's basically a buyout. It's a perpetual easement, and it is tied into our water system. There's some non-compete language, perpetual nature of it. Councilman D did some research. The money that they're offering is much cheaper than if we just took the payments for the contract that we have existing currently over time. Not, I mean, it's a cash buyout. Here's your money, leave us alone. He's prepared a really cool counter, which I sent to the council. We can fire that off to him. I'm gonna tweak a couple things, but he's done a good job of that. It's just not a good contract. It kind of is one of those, if you want the money, take the money, but it's not a good contract, long-term for the city. We talked about that.
I guess with what you shared, the parts that I found appealing were that there was history and reason to believe that the 225 is a pretty low ball for us. And so, you know, if it's something that we want to consider or be able to renegotiate to a much higher amount, boy, that would be largely beneficial to us. It'd be great to be able to counter with that and have it be effective.
The bottom line is we have a contract currently.
Sure.
And it goes to 2039. I don't think they're going anywhere, so if we send this as a counter, we'll see what comes back. We throw it against the wall to see what sticks sometimes.
Well, and then there was examples too that we could potentially just change what we're create it to be a similar contract to the one that we have now, but it's more.
More money, and they want it locked in, because they.
Sure.
He locks it in a length of time, it's a long length of time, but it's a length of time. The money's substantially, his proposed money's substantially higher. Which maybe is the way to go with a one-time buyout. I mean, it's kind of.
Well, if we let it ride till 2039, and it increases, right now, I think this year's payout is $12,097, and it goes up 3% every year. So if we let it ride out to 2039, we end up with $363,000. Now, if we were to take that same contract and add 50 years from today, just like what I'm proposing here, that same contract actually ends up at 1.2 million. So they're getting a deal.
And the water system's a huge concern to me. If they wanted to grow it, then you go for a contract. I don't know. You looked at the proposed contract. The growth side of that concerned me a little bit, and the no compete next to our water tanks. I don't know. I mean, that was a question I had.
Yeah.
As far as where the tanks are.
Is it realistic to?
If they wanted to expand.
They can.
They can.
That's, I mean, that's you're the legal expert as far as what it says in writing.
Yeah.
When we talked to them, it was the ground that the tower specifically is on, and the tower itself, it's the life of the tower, and then at that point it ends.
Sure, but
as far as expanding anything, that was never.
There was problematic language though with regard to.
Okay, and that's something for you to figure out, but as far as expanding, there was never any mention of expanding.
It just was a pretty one-sided contract as far as.
I actually asked that question when I was on the council, and he said with the contract they send, there will be, it will just pertain to the grounds that they currently lease.
They can add more
co-locate.
Whatever up on the tower itself, but as far as expanding the ground, it is set within its perimeter.
In the contract, there was some language that could, I just did, it was.
Then contact the company and clear it up.
Well,
as far as.
This is the best conversation we've had about this, right?
12,000 for 14 years at a 3% increase, does not add up to $300,000.
That's exactly what, if you go back to the original sign date.
The original sign date, okay.
So let me ask this question, Adam. So in the, let me see if I can find it here, where in the original contract, it had the land as agricultural or forested. So it's obviously an industrial plot of land, right? So the contract itself already has to be renegotiated in some way, shape, or form, because we can't let that
It was
slide.
zoned, as ag at the time that was done.
Well,
That's why they used that, yes.
You know what that zone, is it zoned industrial now?
I think it's zoned ag.
I think
Usually,
it's
everything
ag.
outside of town is zoned ag.
Hmm.
So that's why it was at the time.
Okay.
And one thing, I guess, I'm all for swinging for the fences if you can, but there's a statute or a amount of time left on this, right, isn't it?
I hadn't heard anything, so I did send him something last week, and he said, just keep me in the loop. He didn't tell me it was extended, he did respond, just telling me what's going on.
And I guess the reason that we kind of came to the one-time payment was by Councilman Dean's own desire was to pay off debt and save the hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of time we'd have been paid on interest. So that's another thing to consider. I mean, again, you guys want to swing for the fence and it hits, awesome, great job. If not, and they back out, then you lose that opportunity to pay that debt off and save those 100,000. So just
What I
those things are
will
to
say
consider.
that I feel differently
That's how
about
that all started.
is the word, the perpetual use, that's the part that keeps bothering me.
And that's where I asked him specifically to clarify, up to this point, I guess he hasn't, but to clarify with the company, because when we talked to the gentleman on the phone, it was the use of the tower, and then this is hundreds of thousands of towers across the country. They have 7 years to tear it down at the point that they consider it not usable or.
The contract's not necessarily clear.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you're the expert, you're the attorney. I asked you to
I get
clarify
that.
that over a month ago.
I get
so,
that,
I mean,
okay, but this has been off the radar.
Well, it shouldn't be. It's a $225,000 possible kick in the coffer.
I've asked everybody for comment.
Or 300 plus thousand.
Everybody's asked for comment.
Figured out, well, and I gave my comments, I guess at the time, that my concerns, because I read that same line and I was concerned about it, so I wanted you to be clarified on that, so.
Okay.
At this point, I think it still needs to be clarified, and it's gonna be probably a question no matter it's his proposal or that proposal, it needs to be clarified on what the exact length of time, how long they have to tear it down, they are not allowed to rebuild.
He's proposing.
If it falls down by a storm, they are not allowed to rebuild, so you still keep your big chunk of money, that's what we were told. If it blows over next month, and you have that chunk of money, too bad for them, they lose.
My problem with that is it's underinsured right now, and if it blows over and lands on top of one of our water tanks, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Then that's again, this is stuff you guys need to talk to the company and find out what their coverage is. Maybe they are actually covered to the point where they pay for the new water tank and we don't have to pay for extra insurance. These are details that our attorney should be working on.
I appreciate the questions, because I sent it out a long time ago and didn't hear a lot from anybody. Chirping. Fair enough, fair enough.
Started with one question for me, but it hasn't been answered yet, so, I mean, and that leads into other questions, but that's also why we have these discussions, and so.
So are you thinking you wanna shorten the 50-year
No,
term?
no, no, it's what you guys want, this is.
I would say shorten the length of the deal, because he told us, what, 25 years to 35 years is the average length they get out of those towers, so why would you lock yourselves into 50 years
50.
on property when the tower may not even.
25 is
Just
totally
the
reasonable.
length of the time the tower
The
stands.
appreciable length of the tower.
And then at that time, you get your property back. Don't
that-
give them extra time.
Well, it's also written in here, like if we needed to expand our water facility, that we could force them at their cost to move the tower. Because it's critical infrastructure for the city of Crawford, and that has to be first and foremost on all of our minds.
There were a lot of aspects I liked on that. I would like to decrease the term a little bit. 25 is fine.
Okay.
Reasonable. It's the appreciable life of the tower.
So, do we have a motion on anything?
So do you want to keep the one-time extension in there or not?
I wouldn't, I'd make them negotiate, yeah.
Okay, so we'll cross that out.
But we still need to vote.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I think this needs to get sent, like, they need to receive this by the end of the month, so we're here, so.
They probably need
I'm thinking by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Probably tomorrow, because isn't it due in 2 days?
No, it's the 27th of this
Oh, the 27th.
month. So, what else?
So we're gonna bump it down to 25 years.
25 years
The extension off.
with no extension.
No extension. I'm okay with that. We'll throw it out and see if it sticks.
Anything else? So then we should just remove the whole buyback option.
I'll revise it and send it out.
thank you.
Yeah.
So cross out the buyback option, which which says that if they cease to, if ATC ceases active use of the communication facility for 5 years, that the city may repurchase the easement rights for $50,000.
No.
No, they abandoned.
Zero.
They abandoned.
Okay.
It's gone.
So we'll remove that.
It's gone. Just wanted the discussion. I like the discussion.
Do you think that the maintenance of the access road is fair, that they maintain?
I don't know why we would maintain their access.
Right. Okay. Taxes. ATC reimburses the city for all property tax increase attributable to its improvements with documentation provided within 30 days of assessment. All the general liability insurance stuff you're okay with? Commercial general liability insurance with limits of at least $2 million per occurrence and $5 million aggregate, covering bodily injury, property damage, personal injury, explicitly including damages to the water treatment facilities, industrial operations, e.g. contamination, utility disruptions, access impairments from ATC's easement use. Pollution liability insurance with a minimum of $1 million per occurrence, covering environmental damage, spills, contamination arising from the communication facility or access easement. Property insurance on ACT's improvements for full replacement value. City of Crawford shall be named by as an additional insured on the policy, with certificates provided annually within 30 days of renewal. Coverage shall extend to ATC's subtenants, assignees, or successors with no lapse permitted during the easement term.
Yep, I like that.
And then the clarification, I think that has to be done. We do need to do need the planning commission to move forward with making that, or rezoning that property as industrial.
I don't know if that would be recommended.
Why is that?
Well, you should be close to another industrial zone.
We can look at it. I'm not sure that if you're gonna spot zone out there for that, I don't know. We need to look at that. That's a whole nother question that we need to.
So there's,
I'm not sure well, we'll talk about it. I'm not sure what we can gain, quite honestly.
Okay.
Because we have two cell phone towers on the north side of town, which you can't do one without the other.
Well,
but I'm talking that our water treatment facility is an industrial facility. It is not an agricultural facility. And therefore, the whole parcel of land that it sits on should be zoned industrial.
we'll look at that.
I don't know.
We'll look at that.
I'm not sure. Never ever did.
alright.
No action.
Take no action. Alright. Number 29, discuss, approve, disapprove action plan, available dates, times, any evening of the week, 3/23 through 3/29, with Kelsey Sassy, Community Health Planner, Panhandle Public Health District.
I had a quick question for Brent. Do you think she would consider scheduling that for the end of April? Because I have a potential grant that could cover that.
I don't know, there was also another date, it's not all on there, it was the first week of April, so if you want anything later than that, you'll have to contact her. I provided all the contact info to the clerk, or deputy clerk, I should say.
Okay, thank you. There's a 3-level grant, and the first level of this grant has to do with predominantly planning, and this would fall really nice into it. It would pay for this and pay for, potentially of the $75,000 for the planning for any other projects that we have. And by completing that first level, then it's kind of a pre-qualifier to go on to the next level to qualify for much bigger projects. And we've got plenty to pick from. But it would just be nice, because I think this would support that, and that if the grant could also support it back by paying for it, that just another something else to get covered. But if we could, I believe that grant, it's all the filing is mid-April, so we'd probably have to do it closer to the end of April. But I would be more than happy to make a motion to approve with just a later date, if that's okay.
And then her recommendation is just the first out of those 8 meetings, if I remember the number correctly. It's the public one.
The first out of 8, you said?
Yeah, remember she had it broke down, I think
Right.
8 different meetings you guys will do, 1-hour sessions.
Right.
But the first one, she highly recommends that it's the public available one, then after that it's private and closed doors.
Okay.
To get the thing moving forward. So just,
I'm okay with approving it, as long as April, you work out the date with her.
Yeah, because that's the one that I was talking to Patty about, and she was helping me figure out how to, because I think that'll help us qualify for a couple other bigger projects too. And then they said as long as it's coverage up to $75,000 for anything that's planning, that corresponds to the planning of that project. So it sounds like it doesn't necessarily have to be the planning doesn't have to be the same level as the same project as the next level is the part that she understood that was really convenient about that. So she actually remembered reading that. She's like, if we hold off on that, we can get that covered, and then that would probably fill nicely in to say that we're being proactive into making sure that we have great plans for future grant projects. So.
You want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve action plan, to approve setting a date with Kelsey for the action plan. I don't know what date to put. I guess it'd be late April, but
To be determined based on discussion with her.
I'd be okay with that, yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Grant,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
and Dean.
Yes.
All right, 31. Approve bills, claims, requisition orders, and transfers. And I will sign them.
Are they, I haven't signed them. Are they signed?
Well, we're gonna have to take a hiatus to sign them.
Recess.
Recess.
Good thing they look good, because they're useless.
So sign, which one?
This is signed.
Okay.
All right, let's reconvene. I need an approval on
Make a motion to approve
pending my signature.
pending, bills, claims, requisition orders, and transfers pending the mayor's signature.
I'll second.
Dean,
Yes.
DeBock,
Yes.
and, Grant.
Yes.
It's getting that late, yes.
I know, like, whatever, man, it's okay.
I'm like, appreciate.
I'll just raise my hand in a second. I'll go by his name right
It's
now.
like
one
I
in
have
here
to say the first
For the
name.
water
Yes,
plant,
I know,
air
right.
compressors,
Take a little bit, but
is there a
that's
way
okay.
we can put a rush on getting that payment out to
I don't
them?
even know why I
Because they
come, I
won't
never have
ship.
time.
All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
Or make a motion.
I need
to
a
adjourn.
motion to
I'll make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
So if I don't,
So
Were
we
you
need to read
asking
those
about
on
the payment for that mower?
We need to read out the motions to adjourn.
I was gonna ask the
Motion
girls
was
if we
made by
could contact them and see if
Grant?
we could just take that, if they would accept it. Like, yes, if they could
Scott?
accept
DeBock,
Yes.
2 payments over
Skip?
like
Yes.
one this month and one next month just to help defer.
All right, adjourn. Let's get out of here.
Cause I just,